Welcome to The Upgrade once again. My name is Gary Muttley, and he is the one and only
Len Carmichael, Landmine Studios. We have a guest today, a longtime friend of mine, a good compatriot, Demetrius Kelly. He's out in California right now, but he's from New Jersey. He is a New Jersey boy, and I'm glad to welcome him here.
Thank you. It's good to see you again. I haven't seen you in God knows how long, man.
Well, last time I saw you, your mom was living in, like, off of 206, and I came up and picked you up, and I believe your wife was there, and your kid was maybe 2.
Yeah. She's
maybe 3.
Now.
Yeah.
So that would mean at least 12 years.
Something like that. Wow. I was going to say like 10 years, but it could have been even 14. I don't know. It could have been the whole time. It's been a minute because you disappeared. Tell me about where you were. Where did you go?
I went to Japan it was 2002. Yeah.
Jesus. So it was 18 years ago you moved to Japan.
Right.
And what did you learn? Like, if you had to tell me one thing about living in Japan that is just mind-blowingly different than living here, like, what was it about living there that, like, it just blew your mind?
Man, my mind was blown every day. It was a trip. I don't know where to begin. I got so many stories.
Well, let me start with this. Where were you living in Japan?
I was living. When I moved there, we were living in Shinagawa, which is kind of like in Tokyo.
Okay.
So you could say Tokyo. That's basically where I was. So it's broken into different areas, kind of like how New York is. You know, you have like Brooklyn and Queens, Staten Island. So it's kind of similar. So you have like let's say Tokyo, Shibuya, in different areas that kind of make up Tokyo, so to speak. So yeah, I was living in Tokyo for 10, 11 years.
Wow.
And it was a trip every day. It was a sight to see.
I mean, I can imagine being a 6'4" black male with a Japanese wife.
Yeah, that was a trip too.
That just had to be alone a story for every day.
Oh yeah. I remember when I first, I think the first week I was there, I was looking for a job, and I was coming home, so I was getting off the train, and they have like the, like the turnstiles when you go in and put your ticket in and you leave the train station. So there was kind of like a line. So there was like this businessman in front of me, and to the right of me there was this lady. So this businessman, she stops, puts his ticket in, puts his briefcase down, and proceeds to grab this woman's breast and jump up and down like he just lost it. Hold on. Dude, problem was he was jumping up and down on my foot.
Oh.
So of course, you know, I pushed him, right? So I pushed him, he falls over, hits his head on the turnstile, and is knocked out. So I look to my right, and they have like the, customer service person was like there, and I see him immediately pick up the phone, and I'm like, oh God, I know he's calling the police because the police box is maybe 2 seconds away, like down the stairs or whatever. So sure enough, I'm surrounded by Japanese police officers on the first week I was there, and luckily that woman stayed and explained what happened, or else I would have went straight to jail.
You'd still be in Japanese jail right now.
Yeah, probably, right?
So, did you speak the language at this point?
No.
Wow.
No. So you can imagine the look on my face, like,
oh, I'm fucked.
Yep, pretty much.
Wow. Oh, I can't even imagine. I was in Japan for a week, so I have I have an idea of what you're talking about as far as the locations and stuff like that. But whew, that sounds like you really dodged one there.
Oh yeah, big time. Thank God that she stayed. So, shout out to her.
So, would you say that most of your time spent there was dodging trouble?
A good portion of it. Especially in the later times, because as far as like my career path while I was over there, I kind of went into kind of like a little bit of a seedy undertone thing. We'll get into probably, but yeah, definitely dodge a lot of trouble.
So, let me ask you this, just based on that statement alone. How many fights did you end up getting in out there? Like physical altercations, and none. I'm guaranteed, because I know you well enough to know that none of them you started.
Yeah.
But yeah, must have finished a few.
Yeah. Honestly, luckily not that many, because of my size. I guess. I would say honestly about 3 or 4 altercations.
Okay.
So not
too
crazy.
many then.
Yeah, my size though kind of saved me. So.
Did anybody ever say, "Are you a basketball player? Are you a football player?" Like ask you all kinds of like nonsensical questions just based on you.
I think back then, I got mistaken for K1 fighters a lot. Back then, K1 fighters were big. In fact,
did somebody ever think you were over him?
No. But there was this real famous K1 fighter at the time. He's this French dude, and I think he was in a bunch of movies. His nose is like, I forget his name, but I know his nose is broken. It's like permanently like
sideways.
Yeah. So yeah, he was famous at the time, and I remember I met him on a train, and he was. I thought he would be like this big, huge dude from watching him on TV, and he was maybe like 5'10", 5'11", right? but he's built like he's a muscular dude, right? So he started talking to me, and he was like, "Yeah, you should be K1 for start fighting." I'm like, "Nah, man, nah, I'm not about that life."
No. That happens over there. When I was over there, the guys in my band, we're all big dudes, and I'm sure we were asked at least a couple of times, "Are you guys wrestlers?
I could see that.
You guys fighters?"
Mm-hmm.
Like, no.
No, we play riffs. We got riffs, son.
We're musicians, and then they were all disappointed.
So, moving there, what was one of the biggest like acclimation things that you had to like change about like how you perceive the world, or even how the world perceives you? Because being a U.S. citizen in a different country, obviously you're black, and over in Asia in general, that's different for what they're used to seeing just on a regular daily basis.
Right.
And like I would assume, and this is just an assumption, not a guarantee, but like the racism is not much different.
That's a good question. Let's speak on the racism part first. There's definitely, I guess, racism there, but I think it's more rooted. Example, Tokyo, it might be different than when you go out into places that aren't as populated or aren't like real touristy places, right? So Tokyo, there are a lot of foreigners that live there already, right? So people that are from Tokyo are more accustomed to seeing foreigners, whereas when you go outside of Tokyo in the cities, it can get a bit more racist to the point where it's like, oh, if you go to a restaurant, maybe they're not going to serve you.
Really? Is that bad?
That's what I've heard in some instances, right?
But you never had to deal with that.
I personally have never dealt with it. The only thing that I've dealt with in Tokyo, I've dealt with racism from Japanese, and I've dealt with actual racism from foreigners, which is hilarious.
You're like, I can't get away from it anywhere.
But actually more so from the foreigners. But I'll get into that. So in Tokyo, I think it's more so the predominant nationality there is Japanese, right? It's like 98% Japanese people in the country, 98, 99, right? So of course there's going to be some racism involved, newcomer. But it's kind of funny, like they'll have tanning salons, right? And the name of the tanning salon will be Blackie Tanning Salon. Like, now, do they know any better? I don't know, right? But it's just hilarious. Or you'll go back then, back when they had CD shops, and I think they had Tower Records. You go in Tower Records, and they would have the black section. It says black.
It just says black, and it could just be, it's R&B, it's hip hop, it's anything right. Black.
Right, but you won't find Eminem in the black section.
No,
I've tried it. It's hilarious. But
so where does Eminem land for them?
I don't know, but Eminem was not in the black section.
Okay.
I looked because I was interested. But then, for a time example, I was DJing, and I remember there was one club specifically that if you were a foreigner, and this is not because you're black, is foreigner in general, you're not allowed into the club without a Japanese national.
Okay.
Right. So here I am, come in at the club, because I'm DJing that night. So I have like my Crater Records, all that stuff, and I get to the door, and the bouncer's like asking me, do I have someone that's coming in with me? And I'm like, I'm the DJ. He wouldn't let me in, and I said, I guess you don't have a DJ for the night then. Left.
Wow.
You're just like, yo, if you don't want me to work, I'll just go home. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly. So, that's what I did. So that's the type of, I guess, racism that I endured as far as with the actual Japanese nationals there.
So was the size of everything there racist against you too? Because everything was like short? Like, is everything disproportionate?
Dude,
and I'm saying racist, I mean size.
My doorways were so racist in my apartment.
They just whooped your ass every day, didn't they?
Dude, constantly banging my head. I constantly had to get used to,
ducking.
Ducking, yeah, exactly, right. It's hilarious.
What about like seating? Like, because I know at even most of like regular tables here, the way that my legs are, like my shins and my up to my knees is way taller than most people, and it's really hard for me to fit my legs under tables and desks and such. I would assume that it was the same thing for you there, where like you go to sit down and you're like, I can't even get under the table.
Some places yes, some places no. Okay. Some it really depends. But it's those damn doorways.
Just
whether
your head up
on the train, you'd be on the train, like the handles that you hold, man, all the time. Hit bang bang, hit me in the.
Because they were low enough. Did you have to like hunch down on the trains?
To get in.
To get in, just to get in. Okay.
And I'm what, 6'3", 6'4", so I'm not like these super tall. I'm tall, but
I'm tall enough that it would be annoying for me if you're taller than me.
Yeah, you'd have a problem. You'd have a problem too.
So I know that you moved over there with your wife. What was your intent of actually staying there? Like when you got there, were you like, all right, we're just gonna be here for like a couple years, and then we're gonna be out?
Yep. That was
and it turned into a whole decade.
Man, 2 years turned into a decade. Quick.
So, what did you like? How long did it take you to learn the language? Because that's one of my biggest fears of traveling, and I've traveled enough, but like going to places where I don't know the language and I know I'm going to struggle is like fear number one. Mm-hmm. If I was only going to be there as the Billy Club dudes were there for like a week, that's different than me saying, all right, I'm just going to uproot my life, and now I got to actually like learn how to be like part of the system that is this place. Because as a visitor, you can come in and come out and know like 3 words and just get through with it. But even if you were going for 2 years, you're like, oh man, I gotta fucking start learning this shit. I would be lost.
I can't even imagine it just from being there for the week. Like,
and then number 2 part of that question,
right.
How does one even attempt to have a career in a place that is so foreign from the standpoint of like understanding language and nuance?
All right, so I guess first off is I never really, as far as the language is concerned, right? I never really fully learned the whole entire language. I learned things that would kind of get me by in day to day, right? Again, in Tokyo, there's a lot of people that do speak English, or at least attempt to, right? So as far as getting lost and things like that, I mean, yeah, but it's easier than you think. But it is good to learn some things as far as language is concerned. That's important. So example, when you have to go and renew your visa, or you have to go and do any type of thing where you have to buy something, particularly something like a car or something. You'd better know the language to the extent that at least they understand you.
Right.
To sit there and go to McDonald's or something, it's not a problem. You just point and say number 1. Right?
Yeah, we definitely did that when I was there.
Right.
Put the food on the plate. Put the food on the plate.
Right. As far as getting a job, starting a career over there. I went over there with no job prospect. That was kind of stupid, right? I just was like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna go and live there 2 years, and whatever happens, happens. And
well, you had a place to live, right?
Yeah, so we had a place to live, so that was okay. So I think my first job, I was a English conversation instructor, as most expats will do. All right. So, and there's a funny story behind that too. But the company I worked for kind of went under because of bad dealings and Yakuza involved and all that stuff. So, lost that job. So, and I know at that time, my wife was pregnant, and I'm sitting there and thinking to myself, God, I'm in a foreign country, just lost my job. What am I gonna do?
Right.
And so I think that's when I started going to different nightclubs and just dropping off CDs because I remember, I hadn't DJ since I was like a teenager, right? And I'm like, man, I know how to DJ. Let me see if I can find a job doing that. So I would just bother these people like every week with a new CD.
And just like, here's me mixing at home.
Yeah, every freaking week. Sometimes like 2 times a week. And so finally, one club was like, "Fine, okay." So
just stop coming to the door.
Right. So
Leave us alone already.
Yeah. So then I started doing a residency there, and that's kind of like how I made money. But I needed to make more, so that's actually how I started. I actually started tattooing and getting involved in that. So
that's where I was going next. I mean, from what I remember when we were in college together, you were always drawing something.
Yeah.
Whether it was, some character or just letters or shapes, etc. You were drawing something. Mm-hmm. So you already had like the idea behind doing tattooing, but what was it about tattooing that actually pushed you all the way over the edge? Because I know you spent many years doing it at this point.
Yeah, so what got me into it really was I needed money. And
that sounds like every OnlyFans that's ever existed.
No, but really, I actually went to a tattoo shop, and I was actually I was getting this tribal done on my arm, and we were talking about art, and I remembered, next session I'll come in, I'll show you my sketchbook. He was like, all right, cool. So come in, he finished me up showing the sketchbook, and he's like, hey, you want to work for me? I'm like, what? He's like, you want to work for me? I'm like, okay, I need money.
Are you going to pay me? Sure, I'm in.
Sure.
I'll be here tomorrow.
Right? So, lo and behold, you have to do an apprenticeship, right? Which can take anywhere, 6 months, 2 years. So I didn't have 2 years. So I'm like thinking to myself, like, well, what's the fastest way to learn? And I just learned by doing, right? So the next day, when I go to the shop, I'm like, hey, I want to tattoo myself. And he looks at me like I'm crazy. like, nah, dude, you don't understand. I need to
get my game up right now.
Right? So he says, all right. He says, if you can put together this machine, I'll let you tattoo yourself. So yeah, I went on YouTube real quick, learned how to put a tattoo machine together. And he's like, all right, there's the ink, here's the needle, figure it out. And figured it out. So tattooed my leg.
Were you freestyling, or did you actually find a design?
I drew a little something real quick, put the stencil on my leg, got the machine, and went to town and tore my leg up. Dude.
How bad? Like, how bad was it?
Dude, I gouged the crap out of myself. Next day, when you wrap it, you pull the wrap off, the skin comes with it. It's like, man, I tore myself.
Oh, I fucked up.
Yep, pretty much. Pretty much. But next day, come in, I learned not to do certain things again, tattoo myself again. And I kept on tattooing myself. And I remember my wife is like sitting there. I come home, every time I go to the shop, I come home with a new tattoo. My wife is like, what are you doing?
I'm practicing, girl.
Right? Yeah, but I finished my apprenticeship in like a month.
Wow. That's wild.
I had my first client within a month. So, yeah, and then that just spawned on from there.
So, as a tattoo artist in Japan, I have this idea that Japanese people in general don't get tattoos. So who were your clientele?
Well, I would either have someone that gets really dinky small tattoos, because tattoos are very, very taboo there, or your clientele was Yakuza. So it was either that or that.
Right.
No?
And when dealing with notorious members of said crew, you had to be on your P's and Q's and not fuck up that tattoo.
Right. Well, it took a while before, I got trusted with that type of thing. Because, you have to learn.
You had the dinky tattoos at first.
Yeah, because, there's a lot to learn, like, as far as, like, the style of tattoo. There's certain rules. Just like there's rules of tattoos in American style. There's certain rules that you have to go by over there as well. Like you can't mix seasons together and certain tattoos and whatnot. It's a long and involved process, but yeah, it took me a while before I got trusted with that.
So, did you ever fear for your life while you were giving a tattoo?
The first time I tattooed a Yakuza, yes.
You were like, if I fuck this up, I'm done.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's a wrap.
Yeah.
I'm just going to disappear.
Yeah. But, after that, no, like, most of the people that I've talked to in that lifestyle where I didn't have a problem with,
Right.
So some of them were quite friendly to me.
I guess I would assume that being in that, like, as a tattoo artist, being in that lifestyle, you're kind of seen as an outlaw already.
Yeah.
So you're both on the same side.
Yeah, and it kind of gives me, I had some benefits with that,
right,
as well.
Because then you become friendly, and then you get some invites to things that you probably shouldn't be going to.
Yeah, and no one messes with you,
Right.
So that was a plus.
You ever need a favor?
You don't want to be in somebody's pocket. I learned that by watching Snatch.
It's true.
No, you don't. But yeah, for the most part, I never had any problems with people that chose that lifestyle.
Did you tattoo the whole time you were basically in Japan? Like
no. I was still left? No. I did that for many a year. I was actually doing like some freelance graphic design work as well, and I would teach English on and off here and there because I was all about trying to make money.
Right.
So I was doing like a multitude of different things.
So teaching English. So were you like, was that like the
conversational English?
Conversational English.
Which
so
it's
it was not like help you pass a test English. It was actually like help you just talk to people English.
Exactly.
Okay.
Ask where the bathroom is English.
Pretty much. That's
Donde está el baño?
Exactly.
That's how I get around when I'm in Spain.
Oh,
I got like 6 words. I got 6 words, but they get me everything I need to know. I want to know where the biblioteca is. I want to know where the library is. I want to know where the bathroom is, the hotel, and a taxi. Basically, I can get myself anything I need at that point. Oh, and food.
There you go. That's all you need.
See, me and my guys, when we go to another country, we just learn the curses. We just, God, I'm trying to remember the Japanese curses now. I can't.
Dude, I haven't.
It's been 11 years.
So wait, you guys moved home. Well, when I say home, I mean back to the U.S. And you have forgotten all the like random Japanese things that you learned. You cut it out.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm not there anymore. I don't need it.
You know what the crazy thing is though? It's like example, my wife does speak a lot of Japanese in the house.
To you?
To my daughter.
Okay.
And it's funny, like I understand what she's saying, but it's just hard for me to recall. It's like example, my wife does speak a lot of Japanese in the house.
To you?
To my daughter.
Okay.
And it's funny, like I understand what she's saying, but it's just hard for me to recall to answer back in Japanese. Right. The same thing with my daughter as well. Like my daughter was actually fluent. She was a native Japanese speaker, and she moves here, and her she lost a lot of it.
I mean, that's kind of to be expected, especially if she's not literally practicing it every day.
Right.
Like, to just answer simple questions is different.
She straight lost it in like a year.
You know how many things I could lose in a year?
Right.
Like, I haven't really truly played guitar all year so far. We're 8 months into this year at this point, and I might have played like 7 times. And Gary heard me playing over the weekend, and I literally was like, here are 6 notes. They work. Yep, there they are. Those are 6 notes. No actual song was played. If I had to play one, it would have been like a monkey fucking a football. Just fumbles everywhere. So, no, like I can totally understand why you would say that she lost her ability to like fluently speak the language.
Well, I'll say this, and Demetrius will probably, I'm sure he'll back me up on this. You know, having traveled to Europe is one thing, because when you're in Europe, the culture is kind of similar. The languages, even though they're different, they're kind of similar in certain ways. Japan is so completely different culturally, and especially the language. It's like, it's so far separated from what you deal with here on a daily basis that I would imagine it's easy to just fall from one side to the other, because it's just a totally different side of the coin.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, because traveling around in Europe, you see a lot of things that, you know, are kind of similar to what you see here. In Japan, it's totally different. You know, the language written especially is so completely different.
Oh, it's a trip.
Because I just look at it, I'm like, I don't even know how they do this.
Right. Have you ever seen it? There's a website like to live. Was it English?
English, yeah.
Yeah, English.com. Yeah. To actually live that every day is freaking.
Oh yeah.
It's hilarious.
So how much wild shit did you see like that though? Like. People with shirts that just say like random things that don't make any damn sense.
Yeah, dude. I remember there's like this 7-year-old lady. She gets on the train and she's got like this T-shirt, and her T-shirt says, "My legs are open 24/7 for you." And I was sitting there like, what? So you get that. You go to a store and it'll be like, and I'm sure you've seen it online where it's got like the fucking sale. It's not just a sale, it's a fucking sale.
Oh man,
that shit is real.
And
insane.
How often were you like laying on the floor laughing?
Oh, every day, every day. Like when you see there's like a company, I don't know, some type of delivery company. You know, they drive around in vans. The company's called Bigot. So
just like, I don't even believe this is real.
just utterly insane stuff. Or
but in turn, all these Americans that have Japanese symbols on them and they don't know what's actually written on their body is basically the same fucking thing.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yeah. Like
I know that there's the strength symbol, and one of my friends has that symbol, and I know that one's not a lie. But then I see people with all these random things on their body, and I'm like, yo, bro, I don't know what that is, and I can guarantee you think you know what it is, but it's probably something that is not that.
Right.
Oh, there's websites devoted to that too.
Oh yeah. Or my favorite is I know I've had people come in and they want to get their name in kanji, and it's like there's no
translation for that.
There's no translation for your name. Like you can use katakana or but it's just like basically symbols for sounds just slurred together. So it'll just be like right.
Right.
It's not. There's no real meaning to it. and it, it kind of looks just real tacky if you get it. So, just to kind of explain to people that there is no translation literally for your name, they don't understand it.
So ridiculous. So ridiculous. So, you said that you spent some time DJing. What kind of music did you actually play while you were doing that?
So I personally, I did a lot of house music, a lot of drum and bass at that time. Also some hip hop on certain nights. But mostly it was, at that point, was house was really big at that point over there.
So when you say hip hop, are we talking like Wu-Tang? Are we talking like Rakim? Are we talking like old school? Are we talking middle of the road? Or are we talking like newer stuff?
No, we were at that point, whatever was popping for the club at that point.
Okay.
All right. It was, the club I predominantly DJ'd at was they wanted people on the floor, right? As much as I would like to play, or would have loved to have played that stuff, people would have just been like, "What is that?"
So they wanted more of the same type of pop stuff that was going on in America.
Yeah, I will say this is back when rap or hip hop started going just completely downhill, right? So I remember, I think that's when Laffy Taffy was coming out, and the club had just bought that record, and I remember I was listening to it just to see what it was, and I'm like, what is this garbage? Right? Snap the record. that
You're like,
no part of it. No, I'm not playing it. No.
So that's another entry into Roadside
Records.
Right.
This one's done. Toss it right out.
No, yeah, but there's some things that just, I just can't.
So, because like when we met, the first time I met you was at a Weezer concert. And I think you were like 15 and I was like 17 or something like that. What? And it was at the Trenton, it was like at the opening of the Trenton baseball stadium.
Yeah. Yep.
So they were playing in the parking lot. It was like
free,
a PS.
Right?
Yeah, it was a free show for PST. Yep. Ben Folds 5 opened and Weezer played like headlined or whatever. And there was like maybe two other bands that played, but I went specifically because Weezer. And the thing that attracted me to even like remotely meeting you was the fact that you were the only other huge ass black dude running around in the pit. So I'm like, I need to at least say hi to this guy.
Right.
So I said hi to you. We talked for a second, and then I did not see you again until you appeared at Mercer County. And I'm like, yo, I know you. And it's like, we kicked off a friendship like immediately from that, just because of the shared notion of being at a show together and being into similar music least.
That's the power of music, man.
So, I've known you since the mid 90s or so, mid late 90s at this point. Mm-hmm. And, like we've been to shows together and we've had a lot of good times. How did you get into listening to like heavier music? Like where did that come from for you?
Oh man. So high school, I know when I was going back to junior high and then high school, I was predominantly listening to hip hop. Especially in junior high, I was like, man, all that other shit, whack, corny, don't want to hear it. Typical idea of what rock music was. And I think someone had dropped me, I think, was it Rage Against the Machine? I think was the kind of like opening up to other genres of music.
Okay.
So their first album.
Yeah.
Not the demo, but the first album.
Yeah, the first full length.
Right. So yeah, because you kind of had to ease me into it, so I guess my friend was like trying to just ease me into rock music, but this dude's rap too. Well, okay. So, after that I was kind of hooked, and then it just went, I started listening to everything, and then was it Korn, that Fear Factory, what Demanufactured came out. I was like, I love that CD.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that CD is still fire at this point.
Yeah.
You go back and listen to it, and I feel like for that style, still nobody has touched that record. For ferocity, for technicality, everything about that record is still perfect. I get why people may not like it because of the singing. If you're just not in the singing, then fine. But if you like singing at all, that record is still pure.
Well, you and I talked about, that's also like they were one of the first ones to really do that whole screaming and singing thing too.
Yep.
Right.
And that record is just like, that's their peak. So yeah.
But I think that what really turned me on to that though was that just like that double bass. Like
it's so perfect and technical.
Yep.
Yeah.
And like we got to take this back to the 90s for a minute.
Sure.
Everybody was about having a system in your car back then.
Yeah.
And if you could damn near break the back window with double bass or anything, like your mix was just the right amount of low end, that shit was popping. So like Fear Factory was one of those records. Korn also was kind of one of those records because the way it was mixed, it just had so much low end that even somebody that wasn't into metal could bump that record in their car and get the same effect that they were getting from other records. And it was all about showing off, and it was like a way in the door.
Yes.
Because people weren't listening to it on computer speakers and iPhones back then like now.
No, it was about the car. It was about a boombox. It was about something other than just headphones or your laptop speakers.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up. We grew up in an area where your parents had, the whole like hi-fi setup in the living room with like the giant speakers, and my mom had all that.
Okay, so if you go upstairs in my living room right now, I got a fucking hi-fi system with, literally tower speakers that are 5 feet tall, because that's just how I grew up, and that's how I'm gonna be till I'm dead.
Right. Yeah. These kids, the younger generation, they don't do that anymore. It's all headphones. All iPhones, they don't.
I'm telling you right now, I got the fucking aux cord coming out the back with the iPhone attachment, and when the house is empty, the stereo is on 100% all the way up. Let's shake the windows, because like that's the way I want to listen to music.
Yeah.
Right.
So you grew up around me, not too far, a little bit south, but not like real South Jersey or anything.
Mm-hmm.
There are a ton of shows in your town at various like fire halls, etc., or just in the general vicinity. Did you end up going to any of those as a byproduct of like finding some of this music?
Actually, no. I was kind of a hermit.
Okay.
Honest in high school. So I mean, we would go to a couple things here and there. We would end up going to like more of the bigger shows, like you go to Warped Tour, you go to Lollapalooza or whatever, but nothing really local until I got a little older.
Okay, because I remember us taking multiple trips to the Stone Pony.
Yeah.
We went to see Candiria.
Yeah.
We went to see Deftones.
Mm-hmm.
And we went to see Civ. We went to see a bunch of different bands over the years, and like had a good time at Stone Pony, but it was never like around us because City Gardens had closed at that point. So like the local shows were much smaller bands or just pop punk bands that I wasn't really into that much. Occasionally I might go, but that was more of like our friend group that like we all had in common. they would like suck me into coming. They'd be like, "Yo, you should come to the show, come to the show, come to the show." So I'll go, and then just stand around in the back like, "This is boring. Nobody's getting beat up. Nobody's getting beat up here. Like, what's going on?"
There's no fights.
There's no fights here.
Where's the fights? Why are you bringing me here for? There's no fights here.
You're boring me with this.
Who is it? Someone took me to a Methyscopheles show.
Nice.
See, but that's a different story because that's a fun time. Because Satan is always fun.
I don't know. Like I don't know. I just get like I like listening to ska, but I just can't live. I don't know. I just can't get into it. Like I love listening to it though.
I can get into it at any point, but I do prefer going to see heavier bands at this, especially at this point in my life.
Yeah.
Like I've been to a few ska shows in the past couple of years. It's okay, but I'd rather go see somebody beating ass.
Right. Did I tell you the first time I took my wife to a concert?
No, tell me that story. I need that.
Hilarious. So I don't know. If you know, my wife was very was very kind of conservative, so to speak.
I know that, but Gary wouldn't know that. So tell him about her a little bit.
See, but that right there, you're already adding the ingredients of a great story.
Yeah. It's very, very subdued at one point. That has since passed. But so I remember, and this was this was like maybe 2004 or 6 or 7, I think 7-ish. Her first show, I took her to see the Slipknot.
Oh man,
was that over? That was over in Japan.
This was in Japan.
Okay.
And so I remember, we get there, crowd. It's a different atmosphere. Is a bit different because it is a Japanese crowd. I'll say that. So they're not like slamming into each other. The banner opens up, Slipknot comes up, and I look at my wife's face, and her face was like almost like sheer terror. Like, what did you bring me to? So, first song goes by, second song goes by. 10 minutes into the set, I look at my wife again. She's like, "Fucking Slipknot."
She's all in at that point.
Yeah, all in. She's having a ball.
That's great.
Right. So we went to see Rage Against the Machine over there during their reunion tour, their first reunion tour.
Speaking of reunion tours for Rage Against the Machine, did you have tickets for this current one?
Dude,
that isn't happening because of COVID?
Dude, I went and tried to order tickets. And I looked at the price, and I was like, "Man, you capitalist bitches!" I'm like, "You're talking all this socialism stuff, and you're gonna charge me $700 a ticket? Are you out of your mind?"
So, I'm a fan. I'm a fan of Rage Against the Machine. I'm a fan of their politics.
I'm a big fan.
Right, but all right. There is 0 acts on this planet that are getting me out of anything more than $100 for anything. And if it's over $30, I'm really thinking about it. Like $30 is my normal max. Like if you tell me the ticket's $35, I'm like, I don't know, that's a little expensive.
Right.
And like there are specific bands though. I'll pay like $100 to see Metallica because I understand that by paying to see a Metallica, I'm not paying for just Metallica. I'm paying for 30 years of their experience of being a band. I get that. But $700 for a ticket can suck every piece of my asshole. I'm not buying a ticket for that much.
Dude, we went to, I think the last show we went to go see, and it was a festival. It was freaking like Tool, Korn, and this was like maybe last year. Like, I think together we paid $150.
Right, like that's fine. I get I mean, I probably wouldn't pay that much, but I wouldn't look at you and side-eye you with the level of bands you're talking about seeing in a fast festival setting.
Here comes Rage Against the Machine wanting to charge $700 for seats, mind you, that are behind the stage, because this is out of your mind.
No, they definitely priced me out on that one. There was no way. I entertained it for a split second, and then I saw the price, and I was like, no.
And then had the nerve to say, oh, because we're doing fundraiser.
Nope. I mean, so my I was trying to work an angle, because, well, not work an angle, but let me pose that better. Sure. My situation with that was that I know Sonny from Hate 56 was propositioning to kind of document the whole thing.
Right.
So, you know,
which would have been cool.
Right. A lot of times Sonny brings me along on some of these trips, so I was hoping that it would have been one of those situations where he got the call and we were going to do our style of documentation, and I get to see Rage Against the Machine, but also work for the machine at the same time. Mm-hmm. Like, I was hoping it was going to be that kind of situation, because there was no way I could afford to spend $700 or so to get a ticket, and like it wasn't in the cards. That kind of money just wasn't going to happen. But, you know, I would have certainly gone along if it was the other way around. And that's not to say that I expect that kind of thing, but it's always a possibility when Hate 56 gets involved in something that I may get pulled in. Right. So I was thinking in my head, maybe that might happen. Yeah, I mean...
And again, no disrespect to the Rage Against the Machine. I mean, they were the ones that got me into, you know, the rock music and heavier music as a result. But I mean, at the same time, I mean, damn.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to disparage them in any way.
Right.
I just know that $700 is not coming out of my pocket to do it. It's just not going to happen.
No, definitely not.
The last concert I paid a lot of money to go see was, and when I'm saying a lot, I think it was like $42. I paid to see Deftones in Philadelphia at one of the huge festival event things that happens along the river. And like, I don't even remember who played the show. I just know that Deftones headlined. And every time I see the Deftones, I think about our experience when we saw them in Asbury Park.
No.
And you lost a finger.
No. What?
No. And you lost a finger, my man.
This one.
Yeah.
This one.
I'm surprised it ain't melted off yet.
Dude, as soon as you brought that up, the memory just popped right into my head. How long ago was that? Oh my god! And I remember we went to Denny's after that.
Yeah,
man.
We went straight to Denny's after that.
Yeah, my hand was washed.
Scrub till it was bleeding, huh?
Dude.
Oh my god.
Oh man.
So, how bad was it growing up around that Denny's? So I'm talking about that part of town, because there have been a number of reports since then about shitty cops. Like, was your experience just as bad as I expected it to be?
Yeah, I got stories about that. I remember one time I basically got arrested for breaking into my own house.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, wait. Was it climbing through the window?
Yep.
Okay. I sort of remember this story, but tell me this story again. I want to hear it.
So my mother had just went to my grandmother's house. She lives up in North. And I had to go to work. I was working at, I think, AAA at that time. And my mom wanted me to walk the dog before I went to work. So I went walked the dog, came back, and lo and behold, I locked the key in the house. Right? So
we all been there.
I go and look. I'm sitting there looking, and I see my keys right there. So I go and put the dog in the backyard, trying the backyard door. Door's not opening. So I look, and I'm like, my window's open, and my room is on the second floor, and there's a tree. So I'm like, man, let me just climb up this tree real quick, get in the house, because I got to go work. So I'm climbing the tree, and sure enough, whoop, 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 I look down.
What are you doing down there? I mean, up there?
Pretty much, come down. So I come down. Now, here was the trip. I had my wallet. I had my ID. Showed him my driver's license. And I still got taken to the station.
You're like, yo, I live here.
I live here. What are you talking about? Like, this is my key is right here. My dog is in the backyard. The dog is not growling at me. Still get taken down to the police station. At that point, my mom still didn't get up there because I think it took an hour and a half for her to drive up there. So I left a message, and dude, I think
is this right around the time of cell phones? So it's like she wouldn't even have had one.
Yeah. So exactly. So I had left a message with my grandmother. So my mother finally got there, and I think it took her maybe 45 minutes to come back.
Yeah, because she had the foot on the floor.
My mom was livid.
Yo, I guarantee you, your mom came in there like a ball of fire, bro.
Yeah, she was livid. Dude, I was out though, but it's like stuff like that I had to deal with. Or I remember getting pulled over, and dude tried to pull a gun on me because at that point we, back in the day we had the detachable radios. Mm-hmm. The face,
face comes off.
Yeah, so I had the case on the passenger seat. And the cop pulled a gun on me because he was like, oh, it's a gun. He's got a gun. And it's like, it's a radio case.
They're like, bro, chill. It's a radio case.
Yeah.
But the police have had no chill this whole time.
Yeah. So all this stuff that's going on now, I think a lot of it is there's nothing new. It's just, we're shining a bigger spotlight on what's going on now, right?
Right.
Which in a way it's a good thing. But yeah, it's just, and me, I'm I grew up in the suburbs.
Same.
I'm not I'm not real street at that time. At that time, I wasn't covered in tattoos. I wasn't, never claimed a set or whatever in my life, and here I am with guns pointed at me because of a radio case.
Hey, so let me tell you this. You remember my red Firebird, right?
Yeah.
Right ass red. So Gary, I had a 91 Firebird Formula with huge motor, worked exhaust. I'd done a whole bunch of just stuff to make this car better than it was off the factory, but it was still just it was a Firebird, so it was just trying to big dick the party with just a dump. And there was 1 month in my life that I was actually pulled over 17 times in that car.
Damn.
10 of those times I ended up on the side of the road with my shit strewn across the thing, because for a, we'll call it 22-year-old black guy driving a sports car like that with that much work, I must be a drug dealer or something to have that kind of money to do this. And I'm like, yo, bro, I work. My parents hooked me up because I was lucky enough to come from a family that was able to provide me with shelter and food and the opportunity to make more money than I could make otherwise, because I had inroads in different places. So I had the time to go to school. I had the time to work and spend the money how I wanted to, because I wasn't struggling trying to keep food on a family table. That wasn't how I lived. So I was lucky, and I will tell you that straight out. But I was not lucky enough to be left alone by the police. So for me, every time I see this shit that's going on right now, I'm like, yep. Literally, that's my response is, yep, that's about right.
It doesn't, yeah.
It's like, I want to be outraged, and I am outraged, but I'm no more outraged now than I was 15 years ago, 20
Right.
years ago, when I was dealing with this shit firsthand. I'm 43 now, gonna be 44 by the end of the year, and I still, if a police officer pulls up behind me or is just in a parking lot as I'm passing by, I am over my shoulder staring, like just waiting to get pulled over for some nonsensical bullshit.
Of course.
Yeah, man. I definitely feel you. At the same time, though, it's like I've had. Let me tell you two experiences when I moved back to California, right? So I think when I came back here, I remember I bought a what was it? GTI, Volkswagen GTI.
Right.
And I think I had that car for a week, and I got pulled over. Here's the thing: I got a ticket for going. What was it? 50. No. It was like 2 miles over speed limit, so it was like 67 in a 65. And I'm sitting there like, you gotta be kidding me, right?
This isn't even worth pulling me over for.
Yeah, right. And people just blowing by me. And I'm sitting here I'm trying to drive as normal as possible because I just got this car. I'm trying not to, get in an accident because I haven't driven in God knows how long. This is my first car coming out of Japan. So there was that instance, and Duke Cop was real shitty. Recently, I was just in a car accident in December. Someone had rear-ended me, and cop shows up, and I don't want to get into a lot of politics here as far as this is concerned, but I do have a concealed carry license.
Right.
So
it's your right to have a concealed carry license in your state. There's nothing wrong with that.
So here's the thing. I have a concealed carry license in California.
Right.
Which is completely and totally one of the anti-gun capitals of the United States. I'm black, and I have to show this cop that I'm carrying a firearm. So I'm sitting here scared out of my mind because the law says if you're carrying, you have to divulge that information.
So how did you go about doing that without getting shot?
Here I am. Now, mind you, my back, like I just got in a car accident, right? I don't want to be inside of the dark car when this cop shows up. So I'm standing on the side of the road with my headlights on, like standing in the headlights, with all my paperwork ready, right? So he comes up, and the first thing I say is, like, here's my license, my registration, and I do have a CCW. Cop looks at the thing, says, so what kind of gun you carry? So I tell him, I carry CZ. And he's like, oh, CZs, man, those are cool, man. I got a couple of those, like, what's, he goes and checks on the other lady. He's writing up a thing, and he just keeps on talking about guns. And I'm like, dude, calm down about the guns.
I just got in an accident. Let's get this done.
Let's get that done. But the point being is he was trying to, I guess he was just trying to come up with conversation. But there was no problem, so to speak. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, personally, I don't trust cops. But I get why we have cops. But I would never call one to my house. I'll just put it to you at that.
I have never once called the cops for any reason.
I tend to, I tell my wife, the only time you call a cop is if the situation is handled and dealt with. If it comes to even calling one at all.
For me, I would call the cops if somebody was already dead.
That's my point.
That's about the end of it. I don't calling for help.
No, I don't need help from
It's the same situation. Like, I get why, let's just call it for like a car accident, why people would involve the cops for an official report.
Yeah, that's why I wanted it.
But
because this lady was trying to leave.
That falls into their job description, in my opinion, is to come out and help in those cases.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not calling you to my house for something I can handle myself.
Correct.
If somebody robs my house, I may have them come and do a report so that when my insurance asks for the report, I have a report. Mm-hmm. But I'm not calling you there to help me with the situation. Correct. Otherwise.
Correct, because they're not going to be able to do anything anyway. Let's be honest.
They're just going to tell you you're shit out of luck.
Yeah, so, cops are there to clean up. They're not really there to.
Well,
let's be real.
Demetrius made a good point before about the fact that the light is shining on it now more.
Oh, yeah.
Because all this shit's been going on for so long. It's just now, as Len and I have discussed 100,000 times on this show, there's cameras everywhere. Everybody's holding a camera.
Mm-hmm.
Most corners have a camera. Most stores have a camera that points in front of their store. So it's just a lot.
The store, everywhere.
It's just a lot easier to see it now.
Mm-hmm.
And
thank God it is, man. Because
it is, because so many of these incidents, if there wasn't a camera,
it would be the same old story.
Yeah, they play out completely differently. But
so Demetrius, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
As a young black male, haven't you heard the statement, "Oh, that didn't happen that way. That would have never happened. You must be exaggerating."
Yeah.
And you're just like, "Yo, bro, I'm not exaggerating. This shit happened."
Yeah.
And like now with the cameras, it's like, "Yo, see, I've been saying it wasn't an exaggeration, but y'all motherfuckers ain't been listening."
Right.
And now you have no option but to listen by watching and then being horrified at what the fuck you're seeing.
Right.
So like I'm not making excuses for anybody that's a criminal. Like, that's not what I'm on. Like, if you're out there doing dirt, I don't think you should be killed for it by any stretch of the imagination. But there are checks and balances that we have to all live by to keep a society free and clear.
Mm-hmm.
The job of the police is not to kill you on the street. That is what I'm saying.
Right.
They need to actually do their actual job.
Right.
Well, let's face it, because we talk about it usually in the context of the cops, but it goes for the guys doing dirt too. You got to know that there's cameras everywhere.
Absolutely.
And your shit's going to get seen, and you're probably going to get grabbed up for it.
I stopped doing stupid shit many, many years ago when the cameras started being absolutely everywhere. I used to work at Best Buy. We talked about this with Chris.
Yeah, I used to work there.
Yeah, I remember. So, when I walked in and I actually saw the security for that place, I was like, I cannot run this place dry. Like,
nope.
I used to work for the cookie company and discuss this also. I could take home boxes of cookies. Like, I could do whatever I wanted because that place had no cameras.
Right.
The check and balance was weighing things. So all you do is mark your till so that it looks like you sold or you had like cookie loss. Like, we baked these cookies and they went bad. And
right.
You can wipe them. You can't do that with the amount of cameras that are around now. You need to adjust your game. And these cops and these robbers are not out here adjusting their game.
Right. No,
leave your fucking phone at home. Don't take pictures. Don't take video. If you're going somewhere, meet in a park nobody can see you in. Go in the fucking woods. Like, if you're gonna do something dumb, be smart about being dumb.
Yeah, but just recognize that if you're doing dirt, no matter who you are, whether you're somebody trying to steal something or you're a cop or whatever, you may not even see it, but there's probably a camera pointed at you.
There's a good chance.
You know, it doesn't matter if you're working at Best Buy or working wherever or working on the street.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's everywhere, and you have to recognize that and either adjust your game or just be prepared for the fact that that shit is going to come back to you.
Yep.
Period. Because we see it all the time with the cops, and we see it with the other ones too. Because look, look at all these videos of all these people doing dumb shit, wearing swastika masks and running around like that one you sent me today, Len, the white power dude.
Oh God, yo, did you see? All right.
Oh my God.
Let me tell you, this white power dude was at some like resort or like large bar, and he's standing around with no shirt on with a huge ass swastika tattoo, and he's getting in an argument with the people that work there, and he's yelling about white power and this, that, and the other thing. And he tries to like walk away from the people, and he walks up to some lady. I don't know what kind of lady she was. Doesn't matter.
She's got like her arms. Maybe she worked there. I'm not sure though.
She might work there, but she put her arms out like to the sides to like try and just like keep him from walking past and like reason with him. And I mean, he hella slapped this lady right across the teeth. And like you could hear it, and the camera was 25 feet away, and it was just like pow, and like everybody jumped on him. Yo, if that was me, nah, especially if it was a woman I was involved with at all, whether it's my mother or girlfriend or whatever. Like, yo, dude is done on the spot.
It was crazy.
I would be
crazy.
Right.
That's what I said. I said I probably, because it looked like a restaurant or something, I would have taken every knife in that place and put it in his body. Like, come on. Are you crazy? It was insane.
But all these dudes do this stuff when there's nobody around to check them before it even gets to the point where they slap the person in the mouth. Right. Everybody wants to play too goddamn nice and allow this shit to happen because they're afraid of handling the business that needs to be handled the way that it needs to be handled at that time.
Yeah, well, that's part of the problem. But just in general, it's like, what do you think is going to happen to you? Like, what are you going to say? Not guilty? It's all on camera.
Right.
Including your big, like, 9-inch square swastika tattoo on your fucking chest.
And you look like a fucking dumbass.
Yeah. But, I mean, what are you expecting? But this is what goes on. Like, people don't realize that, like, shit is going to come back to you. Just like all these other people, like, the woman walking the dog that time who then lost her job and was crying about it.
Yeah.
She called the cops on the black dude.
The mega Karen in New York City calling the cops on the black dude.
Exactly. Like, come on.
I've seen it.
He's threatening me, and he's literally standing there doing nothing to this woman other than asking her to put the...
No, he's the one...
Bird watch or something?
Yeah, he's bird watching, and he's just asking her to put the dog on the leash. Like, put your dog on a leash.
But he was like a well-known, like, big-time bird watcher. Like, he was part of the Audubon Society, I think. And, like, here she is.
The least intimidating person.
Right.
Oh, no. The black dude's watching birds. We better watch out for him. He's dangerous. He's dangerous with his binoculars.
The problem is that people understand how they can weaponize the police.
Oh yeah.
Oh, of course. But that's why
like a tool or an instrument instead of.
But that's why they've started to try and criminalize
doing
that now.
For years, man.
Well,
they're trying to criminalize it, and I think that's long overdue.
Mm-hmm.
Because come on.
A false report of any kind should be a criminal act.
I thought it was, though.
Absolutely.
Aren't false reports already criminalized?
Yeah, but they don't actually enforce that.
That's a good point.
But they've made a point to try and criminalize this now because Governor Cuomo's talked about it. That any kind of false reports based on race are going to be criminalized, which good because it's just ridiculous.
It is.
So just watching the news cycle in general, what is the worst? What is the thing that grinds your gears the most right now? Like, as you're watching these things go by, is it Trump? Is it just his followers who are willing, like, not just Trump, but his followers that are just eating this shit up and agreeing and believing it? Is it like what is it that really digs into your craw?
Well, yeah, it's a mixture of everything. It's not just. I'm more of a person that's in the middle. I can't, like, as far as like I'll call them the far right and the far left. I can't get down with them, but either of them. And the reason why is, well, you got the far right, which seems to be extremely racist. It's extremely corporate first. To hell with the atom, but either of them. And the reason why is, well, you got the far right, which seems to be extremely racist. It's extremely corporate first. To hell with the actual people and what's going on with normal everyday citizens. And then you have when I mean the far left, I'm talking about the extreme. I remember my grandmother. She's German. She's from Germany. And I remember she was telling me stories about Germany I guess, as Hitler was coming up. And I see a lot of parallel on both sides, and it's kind of distressing me as far as that's concerned. So I'm really kind of concerned, like, I'm personally, I was for Yang. I was all day Yang, Yang, Yang. And now I'm like, I don't know who to vote for. Well, I know I'm not voting for Trump. But then again, I'm like looking at Biden. I'm like, dude, Biden can't even put a sentence together. So it's just like, damn it, right?
That's been my reaction the whole time.
Yeah, I was gonna say that sounds very familiar.
It's like damn. So it's like, and at first I was like, yeah, Biden, he needs to get in the race, and then he gets in, and I'm like, wow. Just wow. And then you start reading up on stuff, some of his policies, and I'm like, wow. What do we do? It kind of screwed, I think, either way right now.
So we just talked about this the other day, I am going to hold my nose and vote for Biden because I cannot understand where we land with another 4 years of the lunacy of this current presidency.
Right.
Like, we're so far beyond what I would consider normal society at this point that any direction back towards that would be a win. Now, Biden is obviously a flawed candidate, and nobody can tell me any different. Like, I know that there are people out there saying, hey, don't disparage him, he's our only chance. And I'm like, if this is the guy that is our only chance, we got to really think about what it is that we want to do going forward. Because I guarantee you, with 380 million people here and a certain amount that are over 35 that are, mentally stable, there are probably better candidates than him. They just won't, like, the DNC just won't look.
There have to be better.
There has to be.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. There's no way that these two are the best two people.
But here's the thing, though, too, right? The president can only do so much damage, right? You also have to think about your senators, your local elections, things like that. That's where it comes down.
80% of the House seats are up for grabs in this next election.
Right.
and I'm talking between the Senate and the House of Representatives, about 80% of those seats are available this coming time. So we all need to not only overthrow Trump, but we need to actually look at the people that are closer to us, that are able to put things into place in those seats. We need to get those people in there, because otherwise we're fucked.
Well, because let's face it, at this point, how many Republican voices do you hear going against Trump?
Not enough.
Right.
Not enough.
So,
Right.
To me, and the panic is starting to set in because, we talked about it a little bit when we spoke to Andy in the other episode, but also, even since then, there's been articles talking about Mitch McConnell is telling guys, listen, if
save yourself.
If you feel like your spot is being threatened, then separate yourself from Trump, which of course it's already a little late for that.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, it's like all these bootlicking enabler assholes that have been letting these things go on for so long, all of a sudden now you're worried? Tough shit, sink.
Right.
Fuck you, sink.
You know what? I wouldn't be surprised though if the inevitable, if he wins again.
We've been saying that the whole time.
I will not be surprised.
We are fully set up,
and I'll tell you why. It's and I was having a discussion about this before. America, I think people in general, not just Americans, people in general fear change, especially big change. And when you start talking about changing kind of like a form of government, getting rid of this and that's going to freak a lot of people out. And I think that's how he's going to win. Despite all the corruption and dirt that's going on with him.
Well, the chant was, "You will not replace us," or whatever. I mean, and that runs deep across a lot of people. So even I bet that there are people who are out there who say that they're going to vote against them as soon as they get into that private space. They'll still vote for them.
Definitely. But listen, we've talked about it before, and I have said it many times. The problem is not just Trump, because you can get rid of Trump, but you've got all these hicks that are all in for him and all in for white power and all in for all that shit. And Trump can go, but those people are still here, and those people still have power and influence.
But here's the thing: they'll always be here, though. That's what I think people.
Yeah, we're never going to get rid of it completely. Right. It's never going to be. No.
But the best you're going to get is to chase them back into their holes the way it was, because now they feel empowered and they're stepping out of their caves and white power, because
nobody is around smacking them in the mouth again.
Well, it's more than that. They've got a guy that makes them feel comfortable.
Exactly.
It makes them feel like their voice is being heard and that he's down with them. So they got a partner now, because this schmuck is sitting there tweeting white power shit and then I didn't know.
No, you knew.
Come on. I mean,
no, you did.
Listen,
right?
that doesn't work for my kids. It's certainly not going to work for a grown-ass man. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I didn't know. Okay, maybe when you're 5, but stop.
Right.
But that's the problem, because everybody just enables all this behavior.
So you moved back here, and now that you've been here a while, are you thinking to yourself, I shouldn't have come here and I should have just stayed there?
Well, there's a lot of things when I moved back, one of the reasons why we moved back was, that earthquake. Right.
The leak at Fukushima?
Yeah. And so, my dumb ass moved to California of all places. That's another story. But, So we come back, and everything was okay, and then I had to get used to things like, again, getting pulled over by police, things like that. And then Trump became president, and I was just like, okay.
You're like, I failed myself.
Well, no, because I kind of figured he was going to win, to be honest with you. I kind of knew. Honestly, we just came off of Obama.
What year did you actually move back in?
Moved back 2012.
Okay, so like right in the middle of the Obama presidency, you moved back.
Yes.
And you were like, yes, black man's in charge, I'm coming in. No, I'm kidding.
No, but I mean, honestly, that politics, all that stuff, that was furthest from my mind. The thing was on my mind was, all right, I just got off dealing with this earthquake and yada 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 yada. I have to, I'm trying to find a job in California now, trying to restart my career. And then, things were actually good. I didn't, I wasn't around for the recession that you guys had.
Right.
I think 2008, you guys had this housing recession and all that stuff. Right. I wasn't, I didn't have that issue.
I'm going to tell you, though, that's how I ended up with my house, because I bought right at the bottom of the market in 2010. So it started bottoming out in 2008, and it just continued basically straight through till probably 2011, and then things started to make a turn. But I bought in December of 2010, and the house I got, I haven't lost a dime on, and in fact, it's increased. Not a lot, but a decent amount just from owning it for 10 years at this point. So, I made a smart move at the time that I needed to make it. But yeah, you didn't have to experience that because you got here a little bit later.
Right. Well, hold on. Go back a little bit, because what I'm wondering is, living over there for all this time, and then the earthquake happens and the tsunami, how did that affect you over there that brought you back over here?
Nerves.
Understandable.
At the epicenter, that was one of the most powerful earthquakes in Japanese history. I don't know about world history, but where we were at, it was, I think the scaling's a little different, but they call it a 6 or 7. All I know is my building because I remember I was working from home that day, and I remember I was sitting by the computer. I had my hand on the mouse, and I was doing some freelance work. So I was making 3D model or something. And I remember my mouse, I'm looking at my cursor, and my mouse was going up and down. And I'm like, what the crap? And I'm looking, and I start feeling, the house shake, or the building I'm in shake. And the next thing I know, wham, it just starts swaying back and forth. On top of that, they build their buildings a certain way so it sways more, so there's less stress. So it feels like the building's about to just fall over.
Wow.
Right? And I remember looking, and the refrigerator's moving across the kitchen floor, and I'm sitting there, and here I am trying to save my file.
Save.
So I Control S, go under the desk. All of my dishes are on the floor, all sprawled out. My wife was at work. My daughter was in daycare. So I remember the first thing I did was I went and picked up my daughter from daycare. And we actually had to stay there a while because there was aftershocks.
Right.
And it was pretty wild, right? So I finally get my daughter home, and I had to carry her in because there's broken glass everywhere. And I remember that our next door neighbor, right after the first shake, I opened the door. The first thing you got to do is open your doors, I guess, because if you can't get out, you're stuck. So this lady, she peeks out. She has got a hard hat on. And she's got like "Daijobu," which means like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And I'm thinking to myself, "Damn, you got a hard hat."
She's a pro. Right? She's hashtag prepared.
Right. So.
So I just looked it up. So was that April 11th, 2011, around that?
Yeah.
So it was a 7.1 earthquake, which is a big earthquake.
Yeah.
There have been bigger ones, but that one that's definitely a sizable earthquake.
It was no joke, and I remember my wife. I was trying to call my wife, and all the phones were. I guess the phone lines were just being swamped or dead. So we actually contacted each other through Facebook, and she had to walk home. And I forget how many miles, but she had left the office, I think, at like 6 or 7 and walked home. And I think she got back at like 1 a.m.
Wow.
And she's like...
I scrolled up, so I was looking at Fukushima, but actually... The earthquake you're talking about was March 11th, so a month before, and then those extra ones were those aftershocks.
We had aftershocks.
Okay, so the original one was actually a 9.1, which is a mega earthquake.
Wow.
Yeah. Like 10 is the highest, so this is as close to the highest as like Japan has ever seen. So you were absolutely correct, and 18,000 people were injured or died in this earthquake.
Insane. It was insane. And I remember, like, I got home, I turned on the TV, and that was right when the tsunami was coming. So I actually had to tell my daughter to go in the other room because I didn't want to see, because this was live. You're watching people
just getting washed away
by the tsunami, right? Live on TV.
Wow.
So, that was a trip.
Yeah, they're saying that the tsunami waves were up to 33 feet high, which is insane.
I remember seeing some of those videos that, like, villages near the water were just getting washed away completely.
Yeah.
And they got it all on video, and it's just you're watching it come, and you're just seeing houses just float away.
And I remember specifically, there's a video of this guy. He's driving down the road. And I guess he's trying to get away from this.
Yeah, he's trying to beat it. I know what video you're talking about.
Right, and I'm sitting here watching this live, and I'm like, dude, you're not.
This is not it.
You have that same feeling when 9/11 happened.
Yeah.
And it's you're watching that live, and it's just like so. I had to turn off the TV because I couldn't. I couldn't
stomach
mentally. Don't give me. I'm desensitized on a lot of things, now, unfortunately. But that's, when you're talking about real life and real people, then right then and there, it's a totally different story.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But yeah, fast forward a couple months and. They're doing things like, they're typical government stuff with lying to people about, there's no radiation leak, and then there is radiation leak, and then I know a lot of the schools in the area, they had like playgrounds with sand and things like that, and they were paving everything because they were
paving it because it's coming up through the fucking soil.
Right. So it's like time to be out. So we moved out, and it's that, and a lot of things too. I think it was time too, because I've been there, almost a little longer than 10 years. So it was just like, it's time to go. I'm done.
Right. Makes sense. I mean, everything has its limit.
Right. Yeah, no kidding.
So, how did you convince your wife that California was the place to be? Especially because most of your family's here. in
Well,
New
here was the
Jersey?
thing. It was kind of a group thing because we were like, I was like, you know what? Your family is in Japan. My family's in New Jersey. California's kind of the halfway.
Hmm.
That's basically how we decided on California. That and the type of work that I do, I don't think it would be actually at that time. I don't think it was possible. There weren't a lot of companies like hiring, graphic designers, computer graphics out in New Jersey, on the East Coast, right? As much as they were out here. So that also played a big factor in why we chose coming to California as well.
Totally makes sense. So
right now I'm kicking myself, but
what part of it are you kicking yourself about? Because honestly, if you were in New Jersey, you'd basically be stuck in your house.
well, I'm stuck in my house now.
All right. Is everything closed there? I don't really pay attention to what the rules are out there.
Yeah, we had a period where things started opening back up, and then stuff started going downhill. So I think we went back a step. So your restaurants are open, but you can't eat at them. So you have to order out. Everything is curbside pickup, right?
Right.
So like example, I know I had I just bought like a few weeks ago. I just bought another guitar, and it was curbside pickup. Or you go to Best Buy, it's curbside pickup. So you're not allowed to go in any stores, basically. At least where I'm at. I know if you go like to more secluded areas that aren't don't have a high amount of infection, things I think are open. But I mean, that's like somewhere up north in places that no one's going to go to anyway. So that's the situation that we're in now. That and the fact that everything out here is expensive as shit.
I'm going to tell you that New Jersey and New York and even Eastern Pennsylvania is not cheap. Like, even if it's not...
Dude, this is a whole nother level. Trust.
But is the pay commensurate with the level of cost out there? Because
Dude,
out here...
I'll put it to you this way. If you are making... And I'll say if you're making $100,000, you're going to have problems.
Really?
If you're making if you're making $100,000 a year, you're gonna have problems, especially living in the Bay Area. Now, granted, you can go out of the Bay Area, which I actually had to do. Like I'm right where the Bay Area ends and Sacramento begins. So I'm like, so I work in the Bay Area. Luckily, the company that I work for, even before the pandemic, I was working out of the office like 2 days a week, right? Now I work completely remote, right? But it would take me, there were times it took me like 2 hours to get home from work. And I live 40 miles away. Now, when I was living in the Bay Area, I was living in Hayward, which is about 10 miles away from Oakland.
Okay.
It would take me an hour and a half to get into Oakland.
10 miles? It would take an hour and a half?
Some days it would take me an hour and a half.
Legitimately, fuck all that. I would never do it.
Right? So, and then on top of that, you got, when I first came here, my rent, and I got an apartment, 2-bedroom apartment. I think it was like 1,300 square feet, so a decent sized apartment. And I was paying $13.95.
Which that's not that bad.
Which is not that bad, right? Right. So what made me move was they
I lost you for a second. What did you say?
They just kept on raising that shit.
Right.
Raising the rent. So I think when I left, it was at 24.
Oof.
Wow.
24. Yeah. So I was like, man, you know what? I could have a mortgage, and my mortgage would be cheaper than this, right? And that's so we actually started looking for houses, and everyone was buying them up. So you would have houses that are like 900 square feet going for like 700, 800,000, $1 million, right? You know,
No way.
houses that are like tore down going for $1 million. And so we moved, we started looking outside of the Bay Area, and then, you know, people were paying cash, you know, so we would find a house for like 29.5, let's say. And someone would offer like 4. It's like, why are you offering 4? Like, with a house is, you're offering $100,000 more cash. So
because they didn't want to lose the opportunity on that property, and
Right.
they had already determined that was what they wanted, and
Right.
whatever the price was going to be to get it, they were prepared to pay.
Right. So we would again lose out on that. So luckily, the house that we actually bought, the dude was like, you know, I was a first-time home buyer. I know what it's like. So we'll sell to you, and instead of, because he had a cash offer. He
Right.
took it. So if it wasn't for that, you know, because I couldn't afford that rent. The rent plus, you know, all the taxes that they charge you out here. You know, I couldn't afford that. Right now, you know, I'm in a better spot, but it's by no means like super comfortable, so to speak. I'm always gotta watch out. Like, you know, if you get laid off, you know, well, that's pretty much anybody though. You get laid off, you're screwed.
Right.
But this is another level, because it's like
There's no way
everything
you
out
can
here is
afford it.
expensive. Because there's no way of finding another place. That's the other nice thing about at least having a mortgage. It's gonna take a while for them to kick you out.
Yeah.
you got at least a year.
Right, for them to get through all the paperwork and getting you
Right.
out of there.
At least a year. Whereas, man, apartment, oh yeah, you didn't
You'd be
pay.
out in a
You're
day.
out. Yeah, bye. So
You can't
I'm-
pay? All right, well, you got 30 days to pay. And if you don't
Right.
pay, you're getting evicted. And then you got like 30 more days. And then they're going to forcibly remove you. And you're out. So you move back to California. You're thinking about moving here. Well, not here, but Pennsylvania. Like we were talking about this a little bit recently.
Yeah.
So Pennsylvania is a concealed carry state. Is that part of your thought? Because New
Not
Jersey
so
is
much-
not.
Right. So, not. I mean, that's one of the things. It's not like the deciding factor. Like, example. Yes, I'm a gun owner, but I'm not like a gun nut, so to speak. Right.
No suggestion. I was not suggesting that you were.
Well, it was some people I know are like 24/7. That's all they talk about, right? And I'm like, dude, like,
There's more to life than this.
yeah, you want to, let's talk about like movies or something. Like, no. They want to talk about how the Glock 19 is better than the Glock 17.
You're like, I don't give a shit. They
care.
both shoot, whatever.
They both shoot, right? Yeah. But at the same time, I don't like having like living in a state, and then also living in living abroad. Living abroad in a country that does not allow you to own firearms, one. And then moving to a state that doesn't really allow you to do anything either. It's kind of like
More of the same.
Yeah, it's like I thought this was the U.S., but okay.
So moving to PA would what is
I'm
is
looking for. I'll put it to you this way. I'm looking at I know PA. As far as like the tax situation and things like that. That's my main focus is can I afford to actually live in an area?
Right.
Right. I know New Jersey has stupid property taxes, which
I pay a reasonable amount on taxes. Some people, even in my development, earlier today, I saw them complaining about how bad the taxes were. But when I look at the taxes that other people in New Jersey are paying, I'm like, no, we're paying a reasonable amount. And if I was in North Jersey, like the amount I pay in taxes plus insurance plus my payment would just be my tax amount, and I'd still have to pay my mortgage. So is it that bad? No, because I have like a 1/3 acre of land and it's a reasonable price. Right. So like it depends on where you land in New Jersey, whether your taxes are really bad or just sort of bad.
Right. But then you got to think too, like example, like how much do you pay for gas, right? How much?
Less than PA. Right.
But how much? You're less. The PA is probably way less for me, right? Because like there have been times that, man, I've right now.
Yeah. How bad is
almost? I've seen it as high as a little over $5 a gallon, and I've seen it.
Whoa!
Right now,
No.
Yeah, I've seen it to where it's gotten that high, and then it's been right now it's at like 350.
So I paid $2.17 the other day, and I didn't have to pump it myself.
See, yeah, and then you got pumping it yourself over here, right?
Yeah. So one of the things that I kind of pointed at, something that me and Gary are really, really attuned to, as a band traveling by van, the gas price spike of like the mid to late 2000s really put a crunch on how much we could travel.
Oh, dude, it was insane, man.
Because it's like once those prices started hitting the roof, it was like even just going to Boston was like, yo, we got to ask for more money.
Yep.
Because just for the gas alone, because
Wow.
you're in a van and you got 2 or 3 cars you got to get up there, plus you got the tolls, and like the tolls are going through the fucking roof. I remember as a kid to drive, like we would drive across PA to play, and it'd be like $16 each way. It is like $52 each way to drive across Pennsylvania on the turnpike, and it doesn't include the gas cost. And it's like to go play a show in Pittsburgh is going to cost you like $200 round trip with gas and tolls and whatever. And you're like, all right, so even if we borrow a van or rent a van, then that's another $100, $200 depending on where it is. Like these prices are detrimental to smaller bands getting on the road.
Yeah, because you reach the point where it's not even worth it to do it because you're going to lose money no matter what you do.
Yep.
So then at that point you're just doing it for the love of it, or the hope that 50 people show up and buy some shirts and you can get home and not actually come out of your pocket.
Yeah, if you want to gamble on whether your merch money will fill that gap.
But then you got to fill the merch gap. Then you got to fill the merch gap later.
Yeah.
So it's pay for it now or pay for it later.
Pretty much.
Like, I have toured out to California and back in a van, and it was in the mid 2000s when gas wasn't nearly as bad as it is now, and it was tough then. If I got to California right now this week and they were like, it's $5 a gallon, I'd be like, turn the van around.
Yep.
Turn the van around. We are not driving one more mile in this state than we need to cancel the shows, because it's not even worth it at that point.
Well, yeah, it's just
they're hundreds of miles apart. A tank of gas is going to cost you $300.
And then think you're going to be sitting in traffic. Your gas is going to. Sitting in traffic eats a lot of gas, right?
Yeah, that's without even thinking about traffic. Once you add traffic in, it's just the whole thing is just fucked.
So you got that. You got your tolls.
Yeah. And I bet the tolls in California are pretty fucking disgusting at this point too.
Well, yeah, they're getting there. They're getting there. I mean, you got, the Bay Bridge. There's a bridge that I take. You got Golden Gate Bridge. It just within this area, right? And now they have this law, which, by the way, people didn't vote. The actual legislation just votes and just passes. So you have no say in these things. It's just, oh yeah, we're just going to raise the tolls, raise the gas tax.
Well, it's the same in New York City.
Yeah, raise it. Yeah, exactly, right? So it's just like, oh God, right? So they're just nailing you, hammering you. The sales tax. So I'm just tired of getting gouged, literally gouged, right?
Well, because Joe Rogan just moved out of L.A. Mm-hmm. Joey Diaz just moved out of L.A. They're all moving to Texas to get away from all the cost of living in California.
I think that part of it is the cost of living, and then I think part of it is the
overcrowding.
The overcrowding and the mentality that's here. It's kind of annoying to be over here. So I think that's part of the reason why too, right?
Right. Well, they've been open about that. They've said flat out that they just want to go somewhere where they can kind of hide out a bit.
Yeah, mind their own business.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've had those same conversations talking about New York City, because everything in New York City, the whole culture in New York City is everybody's on top of each other.
Yeah.
So
I think that's part of it.
Yeah, and a bunch of the cities of California are the same way. A lot of the big cities are in general.
Yeah.
So,
thank God I live out in the suburbs right now. But when I was living in the city, I was just like, yeah.
Yeah, because Gary was down here visiting me over the weekend, as we talked about earlier, and usually that I don't have a lot of people around me. My studio is legitimately less than a quarter mile from a small airport, and then beyond the airport is literally farmland. I am right at the edge of where the suburbs turn into rural area, and it's good that I can actually be out and about and not be on top of everyone. I can't imagine what it would be like to be in Gary's position, stuck in the city with people just jammed around you at every angle.
Well, put it this way, just to give you an idea, because now I work in the Bronx and I could take a bus or I could take an Uber there, and it's not that big a deal. But I used to work in Brooklyn, and when I worked in Brooklyn, I would have to go and get on a packed train every day to go from the Bronx through all of Manhattan into Brooklyn twice a day.
Yeah.
And like I said, those trains are completely packed.
Mm-hmm.
Like my routine, I would have to get up early and get on a train and go north before I can go south, not even just to catch a seat, but because by the time, I was at the fourth stop on the train, and by the time it would get to my stop, it was already
too full. You couldn't get on.
Yeah, because all these people from Westchester, because the last stop is just below the Westchester border in the Bronx. So all these people from Westchester would go and take the bus down to the subway and take the subway into the city.
Mm.
So by the time
just jammed full of people.
By the time it would get to my stop, it was already full.
So then you're missing your train, and then you're running late. You just can't live that way.
But that's why I just would leave earlier. I'd get up way earlier and leave earlier and just go north to come back down.
Oh, man,
that was
crazy.
The only way it was going to work.
That's crazy.
And I did that every day. And now with COVID, everybody's worried about being close to each other and this and that. I can't imagine. I've been working from home, but if I had to go to Brooklyn every day, I don't even know how I would do it, because it would just be dangerous at this point.
Right. Right. Yeah, I look at the same, in Tokyo, man, they would cram people in there, literally, with their feet, pushing people into the train. It's dude, no one else could. Woo.
One of the things I want to ask you about, though, over there, it seems like wearing a mask is commonplace and not something that people feel like they're losing their liberty by having to put on a mask. Am I wrong in that assumption? Like that everybody's kind of looking out for each other, so I think it's
their mentality is different anyway, right? They wear masks like, you know, example, you got an allergy, right? They'll wear a mask. You know, if someone catches a cold, you know, they wear a mask. Because over there, like example, like here, if I catch a cold, I'm staying home. Over there, they catch a cold, they're still going to go to work. They're still going to, you know, that's just what they do. So they're going to put on a mask because they don't want other people to catch what they have. It's that simple, right?
But the masks have also been their thing for a long time now.
Yes, exactly. It's
been 11 years since I went there, and when I went there were
people
tons
wearing
of masks
right?
everywhere. Yeah.
Yep. Masks are commonplace over there.
Yeah, it's a common thing.
So here, you know, this whole thing about well, it's my right to not wear a mask. It's like, yeah, it's your right not to wear a mask, right? But at the same time, just like, you know, you had, and I don't want to, I'm comparing the two, but they're very different, but it falls under the same thing. So, if you recall, a few years ago, you had the, I guess the gay couple that was trying to get a cake made or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, we can't make a cake for you because it's against religion. And it turned out, you know, the law favored the cake maker because it was a private business. So then the same thing should apply. If I'm not wearing a mask and if I go into a business, you shouldn't be complaining that I kicked you out because you weren't wearing a mask, because it's the same freaking thing. If you want to get technical, right?
That precedent has already been set.
Right. Now, is it wrong for that person to be denied made a cake? That's a different.
That's
topic.
a morality question,
right. But at the same time, it's their right. In other words, it's their right to say you can't come in the store because you're not wearing a mask as well. So this whole liberty thing about wearing a mask is stupid, right? I've seen plenty pictures and during the plague in the 1918, everyone's wearing a freaking mask. No one's talking about, I don't see any amendments broken by making you wear a mask.
So let me ask you this. Are you sending your daughter back to school? Are the schools open in California? Are the schools even open in California?
No, they're not. Nah.
Okay.
So at least most schools. So I know my daughter hasn't been to school since this whole thing kicked off.
So like March.
In March, right? So she scheduled her school starts in a few weeks and it's going to be online. And they said they're going to wait until October to see what the thing is. But if they were to open the schools normally, no, not right now. No, not the way things are. Definitely not.
If you had a younger child who maybe wasn't prepared for working at home, because your daughter's 14, she understands how a computer works. She's probably more savvy than even I am at this point. So the idea of working on a computer, being on a computer is not foreign to her. But let's say she was like in first or second or maybe even kindergarten, where she has no frame of reference of how school works. Would you consider it?
Taking her, letting her go to school? No.
Okay.
At the rate things are spreading, things like that, no. Especially that there's no I shouldn't even say vaccine, but no treatment for things
when
yet.
you end up with
I could say if there was a treatment, like example, you get the flu or whatever, there's actual treatments for shit. There's no treatment for, or at least treatments that are 100 or not. Nothing's 100%, but things that are reliable. I know there are certain things that work for some people, but
it takes a long time to get something that's reliable.
Exactly, right? So I hate to break, but I think we're gonna be in this predicament for a while longer still.
I mean, we've talked about that 100 times, that this is not gonna go away quickly.
No, not at all.
No.
And this whole thing with the vaccine is questionable because, and I'm not an anti-vax guy, but just the idea of how long these vaccines usually take, and suddenly they're rushing this thing.
Well, yeah, like this. Here was the interesting thing, right? And again, I'm not an anti-vax person either, but at the same time, I know what is that? I don't know if it's There's another. I don't know if it was Tamiflu or another flu thing or whatever, but I remember certain vaccines in Japan were banned from being used because, I think teenagers were jumping off balconies and shit
because it fucked with their mental state.
It's fucked with something with their balance and their they're jumping off of balconies and killing themselves left and right, and it turned out to be the vaccine. I'm like, when something new comes out, I'll let the beta go first.
Right. Well, that's what we were saying. It's like
it's actually Tamiflu. So I just looked it up.
Is it?
So as of May 17th, 2018, the health ministry of specifically in Tokyo banned the Tamiflu med for teens because it was, causing people to have suicidal thoughts.
Right. And I'm not saying that it's going to affect it. Things affect people differently, medications and things. So what might not affect one person will affect someone else.
Well, yeah, that was exactly the point that we made, because they test these things because people's biologies vary so widely that, and Len, add that to the list of side effects we were worried about.
Right.
Because we were sitting there talking about, you see all these commercials for these different drugs that have gone through a whole testing process, and the entire commercial, the audio is just all the side effects. So now,
yeah, right.
Yeah. So now
your whole asshole might fall out.
We're gonna have
wait, what?
Yeah, exactly. Side effects include growing extra limbs, possible vampirism.
Right.
I mean, but seriously, there could very well be side effects that we don't know about, and that's why this whole process takes a long time.
Especially when you're rushing something, right?
But that's what I mean. They're rushing the whole thing, and then let's not even get into the fact that look at the administration that's rushing it. I wouldn't trust them if they gave me a fucking cupcake. So it's just there's no I'm not lining up for the damn thing.
Yeah, there's not a win-win on it. Because also, too, you got to think that now they're... I've read, I'm not going to say, but, I've read that, people are catching it a second time or a third time because your immunity kind of dies off with it,
right.
Within a month. If you had it, okay, usually, if you had something, you kind of build an immunity to it, later on. But in this case, your immunity, your natural immunity only lasts a month or two, they were saying. So how is a vaccine even going to work? Because the whole idea of a vaccine is to
put it into your body and build your immunity by exposing you to trace amounts, and then having your body fight it off naturally, and then
so
if your immunity in you.
So if your immunity naturally dies out within 2 months, what good is vaccine gonna do?
I mean, there's
I don't know.
There's so many
I'm not a
questions.
scientist though, so.
Nor am I.
Well, yeah, but that's the thing. You know, how many people are actually listening to the scientists now?
Not enough.
Which is a whole other issue in itself. It's just to me, it's just so crazy, this idea, and everybody's so hell bent on reopen the economy because that's what all this stuff is all about. But you know, let's just throw our kids into the volcano and sacrifice them to the money gods because we gotta reopen the economy.
No, that's something I can't do.
Nah, I'm not with that at all.
And I totally understand. Like, I would never suggest that someone has to do something along that line.
And by the way, the other thing will be, of course, once they start sending people to school, you're going to be required to get the vaccine.
Of course.
Oh, yeah.
And that'll be the next big mess.
Then if you opt out of the vaccine, then your kid opts out of school, basically.
There's already talk about stuff like that, which doesn't surprise me at all.
Mm-hmm. And
that's why I said, and you know, the talk is coming from, and this is what I said earlier, the talk is coming from both sides on things like that, and that's why I'm scared of both sides right now.
Well, I'll say this: I haven't heard anybody from either side question anything when it comes to rushing this vaccine.
Exactly.
So they're just letting it go.
Yeah,
let's get this vaccine.
Yeah, like we were talking about enablers, but like, you know, Democrats, Republicans, everybody seems to be like, okay, yeah, it's cool. Like, I don't hear a single person questioning it.
Right. I honestly think we need to kind of, as far as like the whole Democrat Republican thing, I think we need to stop looking at it as Democrat and Republican and start looking at it as who has the best interests of the people versus who doesn't.
None of them do.
Well, that's a problem, right?
I'm laughing because that is just such a far-flung concept.
But it shouldn't be.
No, it shouldn't be. Absolutely not. But that's why I've said it before, and I've been very vocal about it going long before the last election, that I think the whole two-party system is one of the biggest problems that we have.
Oh yeah, it is. It is.
I think it's terrible, and I think it does more harm than good. And that's before Trump turned it into
even a bigger shit show.
Yeah, exactly. Trump took it and turned it around into a total disaster, to the point of where, you know, the Kushner story, like, oh, well, Democrat states have the virus. Oh, well, fuck them, let them die.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did you see that? Did you see that report that Kushner was basically like, yeah, forget them?
I don't think it was
my
Kushner.
memory, because I don't think
It just came out like 2 or 3 days ago.
It wasn't Kushner directly, but I guess as the thing was being discussed, they turned around. When things started hitting the fan in the United States with the virus, Kushner, you know, Trump's son-in-law, started working on a whole plan to do nationwide testing, and they were acquiring tests and getting all this thing set up. And this report came out in Vanity Fair this week. A huge article about it with supposedly verified sources and everything. At some point during this whole process, they felt like they were about to announce this whole plan, but then suddenly somebody in the White House hit the brakes on it, because apparently they had a conversation and they looked at it and realized that the states getting it the worst were Democratic states by Democrats. And they were like, you know what? I think it would be to our political advantage to let them roast with it.
That's crazy.
And by the way, Len, it's all over all the news channels now. Everybody's
picked up on it.
Because I saw CNN talk to the woman from Vanity Fair about it, and it's just mind blowing.
It's unconscionable that is the approach that was taken.
But it just shows just how far they're willing to take this whole Democrat-Republican thing.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, they've already taken it too far anyway. And I have issues with both parties. I got a lot of anger at the Democrats, like we were talking about before, because Biden is the best fucking thing you've got. Jesus Christ. Give me a break. There's people sleeping out on the street right now that would be a better pick than Biden.
Yeah, I know.
and they could form a complete sentence. But it's just, this is what it's come down to. And Biden is the less dangerous of the two picks. He's got a shit record, a lot of questionable shit.
I think he's the less dangerous for the short term, which is probably what we need. I think long term, it's going to be a problem down the road. But right now, we need to kind of maybe get out of the short term problem first. Yeah, we need to triage. Yeah,
we need somebody in there to just straighten the ship out. I don't care if he doesn't get it going in an upward trajectory. I just need him to flatten that fucker the fuck out.
Right.
Like I need something better than what we have.
Yeah. Yeah. And,
I like that.
And part of it too is right now things are just so bad. I don't think we could survive another 4 years of Trump.
Absolutely not.
Like everybody's at each other's necks already. And as soon as you think the races are divided now, if he wins, think of the shit that he's going to start spouting out.
Because he'll have nothing to lose.
Right, but think of all the rednecks that'll feel empowered by him.
I mean, they already do, but it'll just get worse.
No, it'll get worse because now it's like, well, we got 4 years. We got 4 more years. Let's start lynching.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, it's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
But it's just this administration, and it's not just Trump, the whole administration, because everybody else just lines up to lick his ass. Everybody else just lines up to do his bidding. And the whole administration has just enabled this total and complete shit show. And it's just dangerous at this point because it really, like so many people equate, like you, Demetrius, you mentioned earlier, like the whole idea of this thing being reminiscent of Nazi Germany, and it's really not that far from it.
No, it's not. It's not. And then I think people don't realize it though. Like people, if you really sat down into what's going on and how certain things, certain rights are being taken away, how things are in the light now, then it's like, God, that's just like, like when people describe the example of the federal police as Gestapo. When you really look at the Gestapo and you look at it, it's like, well, shit, that's not really far off, is it?
Not at all.
But I don't think they care because they think it doesn't affect them.
Oh, but it will.
Oh, we know.
Sooner or later.
History shows that it will. But we go back again to selfie culture and the way people are so selfish in the way they operate now. It's like, well, it ain't my problem. Nobody's got their knee in my neck on the street
yet.
Yet.
So,
but that's the trick.
The way I look at it is that people live in their own little box, especially if they don't travel and they've never experienced anything outside of their norm.
Exactly.
So you go to the South and you just say a word like just a word that would be normal to us because we know Jewish people, like holla. They just scrunch their face at you because they don't even know what the fuck you're talking about. And those are the people that you have that are out there voting with no world experience.
Right.
They don't understand the other side.
Well, that's why we've said many times, and Demetrius, I'm curious if you agree with us on this, that you've got your big cities, and then you've got everywhere in between, and it's like two different Americas.
Yeah. I'll even say this. I'll even say this, like, because I see a lot of that issue within California, right? So you have a lot of example. California is predominantly, well, it's a Democrat state,
Right.
Everything is pretty much Democrat, and what I mean by Democrat is, I'll go even further and be far left. So a lot of times, a lot of policies that might work in San Francisco do not work where I live.
Right.
In fact, it might even do the complete opposite and destroy things, right? So I think there needs to be a more, people need to really. That's why I said your local elections are just as important, right?
Absolutely.
Because if not, your whole area is gonna, like, example, like, everyone voting for bridge toll lives in San Francisco and does not leave San Francisco. But since the majority of people live in San Francisco, of course the vote's going to pass. So,
Right,
what about the people that
because the toll doesn't affect them?
Right, but what about the people that have to go into San Francisco every day, which can't afford to actually live in the city anyway? So they're already don't have a lot of money, and then we'll vote for something that is going to take even more money away.
Right.
So something within our system's broken. In other words,
Yep.
I'm not saying it needs to be overhauled.
The same thing applies in New York State too, because obviously the needs of somebody living way upstate near Buffalo or something, those needs are completely different to the needs of somebody in New York City like I am.
Right.
So it's the same kind of thing.
But let's not get that confused with politicians being complete and total racist asses and shit.
Well, yeah, of course.
There's a difference between being conservative where you need to be conservative and being liberal where you need to be liberal.
Right.
And then that shouldn't equivocate, conservative equals racist, but it seems to be the case right now. Right.
So what I want to say about that is, like, if everybody got, well, not everybody, but if people got their way and you were able to, like, send people back to where they came from, or, the typical racist rhetoric that's out there, like, can you imagine America without Chinese influence? Like, imagine San Francisco with no Chinese influence.
Well,
the most bland place in California it would be. Or go to LA with no Mexican or Hispanic influence.
If everyone
or just America without black people at all.
There would be no white people either.
Huh?
Well, there
would be no white people either.
Well, yeah,
that's
but
what
I'm just saying.
That's what I was just going to say.
If they want to take
point,
it just the white people being here.
Well, yeah. But it's just my whole thing is, if you're here, because again, I have certain things where I'm very, very liberal about, and certain things that I'm very, very conservative about, right? And that's just because of my how my family is, and me living abroad and things like that. So, like, as an example, when we moved back here, of course my wife is a Japanese citizen, right? So of course we had to go through the whole immigration thing, and I know that's kind of like, it was a big hot topic with immigration. Our immigration system is a freaking joke. It's not even a matter of if someone is illegal or quote unquote illegal or undocumented or whatever. It's just that our system is broken. And I'll give you an example. When we brought my wife, when I was filling out the paperwork to bring my wife over, and you have to give it costs like $800, number one, to do that.
That's
the
a
first time
all by itself.
Yeah, but first time lost the paperwork.
Oh, Jesus.
Second time, it was we lost her picture. Third time, she was over here and they fucked something up. Like when she was over here and she had it. It's just like, dude, you can't even get a simple ass job right. And here you like shit. But at the same time, now that I had to go through that process, for someone to come over here, just hopping borders and whatnot, do I think that they should be able to live here? Yeah, I mean, everyone has a right to live wherever they want to be honest with you. But at the same time, we need to make the system work so whoever wants to come can, without being ostracized or without being. So example, if someone in other words, they shouldn't have to cross the border illegally. If they come to the border, if they want to become a citizen or to come and work in the country, we should have paperwork for that. And okay, you're in. I don't get the idea of just shut you out completely, in other words. But it does need to be revamped.
In my opinion, borders are largely imaginary lines in the sand. It's something we as governments all agree on exist, but in reality, they don't. Human migration is a normal course of how we've lived on this planet, and until we actually had countries, that's the only time it actually mattered.
Yeah, but we've had countries for.
Well, but I'm saying
right? I get what you're saying.
The words came out wrong.
No, go ahead.
People ended up here through the Bering Strait. That's documented that
Correct.
People got here over that. So then they spread across the continent.
Mm-hmm.
It's not weird to me that more people want to come here and more people want to leave here. It shouldn't be that you can't go somewhere or come somewhere. I feel like it's anti-human to force people to not immigrate. I'm not going to call it be an expat or anything like that. Like, if you want to go somewhere and live there, then go. Just go through the paperwork to do it. But the paperwork should not be detrimental to you doing it.
To an extent, I agree with 90% of that. And the only reason why the other 10% would be as far as being able to, like example, when I was over in Japan, I wasn't able to vote, wasn't able to do certain things because I wasn't a citizen in that country, right?
Which is fine.
Right. I didn't bitch about it because I knew I was, I'm not a citizen of the country.
I don't think that, if you immigrate to our country or you're on a green card or one of those things, I don't think that you should necessarily be able to vote either, but I don't think that you should be blocked from coming in.
No, I don't think, no. But at the same time, like certain things that give you that citizenship to that country should be upheld. In other words, do I think people need to be thrown out? No. That's you're talking about a human right issue, right? So everyone has a right to live. Everyone has a right to, no matter where you are, where you're from.
If you're committing actual crimes, and I'm not talking like misdemeanors or anything like that, but I'm talking actual, like, real people are getting truly affected crimes, I don't have a problem with deportation in those cases.
Yeah, but no, misdemeanors, things like that, no. What really pisses me off is, like, when you hear about, like, let's say you have a family, and the father, let's say, came here, quote unquote, illegally. The parents came here, and the son, let's say, joined the military. And let's say, while their son is in the military, their family gets deported. Like, are you out of your mind?
Right.
Are you really out of your mind right now? Or
but it happens more often than we even want to think about.
Than what you want to think. Yeah, it does happen. You don't hear about it, but it's one of those things that do. And
everyone wants to say, let's respect the troops, respect the troops, but they're one of the least respected people in our entire society.
Yes.
Oh, sure.
Most definitely.
I mean, my father is, and my father, my grandfather, and some of my uncles were all in military service.
Especially the minority.
Yep.
Back then.
Oh yeah. But I'm not even going down that road. That's a whole episode all by itself.
Yeah.
But just as in general, veterans who, if they don't do anything else beyond serving their country, are basically forgotten.
Yep.
They may as well not even exist.
I see when I used to work in the city, I used to see every day lines and lines of homeless people. I guarantee you, big majority of them veterans.
Yep, with PTSD, mental issues, etc., all stemming from service to our country, and we do not do anything to help them.
And it's disgusting. And you know what? This happens in no matter what state. I don't care if it's Republican, Democrat run, whatever. It's the same shit. And it's despicable.
So, one of the things you mentioned, and just like to kind of change the subject a little bit here.
Sure.
You mentioned that you picked up a new guitar.
Yes.
And you had to get it by pulling up to Best Buy or wherever you got it from. Where did you get it from? Guitar Center?
Yeah.
Pulled up the Guitar Center and they slung it in your trunk and you drove off.
Yeah.
What did you get?
What was that one? That was a what was it? The 7-string. That was this one actually. The Schecter. It's a Schecter.
7-string Schecter. Now, what drew you to purchasing this guitar? Like, is it the design? Is it the color scheme? Did you play it in the store like months ago before the shutdown and then you just pulled the trigger on it? Like, because I can't buy a guitar without like 15 visits to the store.
I get what you're saying. No, so I bought that one. I had played what was that? A Schecter. I want to say it was a C7 Blackjack, I think, a while ago. And I know this one had the same neck profile that I kind of like. Plus the price was ridiculously low because the apparently the electronics were fudged on it.
Oh, okay.
New pots. That's all it really needed, and it was good to go.
Did you wire it yourself?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't realize that you were a solderer.
It's not that YouTube.
Dude, I use YouTube for everything.
YouTube.
Everybody does.
YouTube.
You want to make something? Go on YouTube. Build a house? I just watched it on YouTube. It's fine. Put it all together.
That's how I started my tattoo career. YouTube. If I can do that, I can put a pot in a guitar.
This is probably true. So, I know when we were young, you fiddled around with the guitar, but you weren't like an avid player because you had just kind of gotten into like rock music in general. So you had one, or you'd come over my house and you'd play one of mine, but you weren't like a guitar player. What made you decide that you wanted to play guitar now?
So at my old age now.
Yeah, I mean you're fucking 40 now, so like, why are you trying to play guitar now?
I've always wanted to learn how to play. I mean, and not just like, oh yeah, I know how to play a Nirvana song. Actually, like, learn how to play, right?
Right.
And I'm at that I guess at the time now where, my daughter's 14 and, she's doing, she's into her own things now.
So you got free time now.
So I have some, time. So I just decided, I've been wanting to play. So I figured I'd start learning how to play. So I've been doing it for about a year now, and I'm starting to get to be a little nerdy with this stuff. So I'm maybe I gotta sell a couple because I actually bought a few that I shouldn't have bought.
That's the whole life of being a guitar player or into making or doing music in general, is overspending on things that you think that you need, but you don't really need.
Right. Well, that's with everything too. I do a lot, for a profession, I do a lot of graphic stuff, right? So I'm heavily into computer graphics and stuff. So I bought this big ass, huge Wacom screen tablet thing, 30-inch thing to draw on. I barely use it, but it's nice to have.
So in my studio, and Gary will attest to this, there are at least 22 guitar heads. I have an insane amount of amp heads, and you can only play one or two at a time before it gets to be just completely obnoxious. And it's like, why do I have all this stuff? And sure, I can put it under the guise of, I run a studio, I should have all this extra stuff. But really, it's that I have gear acquisition syndrome. Gas. I have gas. Yep. And it's like, no matter what you do, I can find a reason that I need X, Y, or Z.
Oh, yeah.
And then 6 months down the line, I'm sitting there staring at this piece of equipment that hasn't even had a knob turned in the time that it's sat on the shelf. And I didn't need that.
Len, that's why Craigslist is your friend and enemy.
Oh, bro, I punish Craigslist constantly.
But see, usually the stuff I get though is on I usually get a good deal or something. But or it's something that, example, I just bought a this is back in January. I bought a Line 6 Helix.
Oh, you bought the Helix? That's actually a nice piece.
The LT, right?
Right.
Because I figure I'm not buying an amp.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I'm not going out on tour, so I'm not buying a cab for 412 cab or whatever. So let me just buy one good solid piece of equipment that I can play around with. Have basically, I don't need to buy all these pedals and all this stuff because it's all right there.
So what do you play into? Just headphones?
Headphones or monitors.
Okay.
And that's pretty much it. Yeah, I live in a little small house, right?
Wouldn't stop me, bro.
See? But here's the thing, right? Now I'm looking at it because I know Line 6 just came out with the I forget what it's called, but it's it's the new pod that right. So it has a lot of the same features that this freaking Helix does, and it's freaking a quarter of the price of this thing. And I'm sitting up there kicking myself. Shit.
What did I do to myself? Why did I do this?
Right.
I spent way too many dollars.
Right. But at the end of the day, it's just what it is.
Because I just picked up 2 weeks ago. I had guy named Mike in Baltimore. He runs a company called Black Cat Amplifiers, and I had him hand build me a Marshall 800 clone.
Oh, see.
So
how much did that run you?
Let's not talk about numbers, but I'm going to tell you right now that while this amp sounds amazing, and I'm glad to have it, I'm happy to have it. It sounds great. I didn't need to spend the money that I spent to get it. I definitely just did it because fuck it, why not, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I totally understand what you're saying about, because I could have bought any random amp for $300,
but you wanted that one,
but what I'm looking for is that same new amp feeling.
Yeah.
The only cool part about this new amp that I got is that it's custom built just for me. So it's like an extra oomph on my happiness.
And that I think is awesome, because that thing sounds monstrous.
It does sound amazing.
And listen, if I had the money, I mean, I was talking about this a little bit over the weekend, but like if I had the money, I would spec out and just build like a custom bass.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, if I had the loot to do it, I totally would.
Are you talking about the Pod Go? It's like a floor pedal.
Yeah.
This thing looks really kind of nice for what is considered a pod at this point. They probably are using almost all the same crap that's in the Helix.
No, they are. It's the same. They have the same amp models, the same.
Is that the one that has the expression pedal on it too?
Yep.
Yeah, it's got an expression pedal.
Okay. Pod Go.
It looks like I mean, they have like the HX Stomp, which is like a smaller version without the
I was
pedal.
looking at that. But like, I got the LT and I run a Digitech drop pedal in front of that.
Okay. So you can just fuck around with.
So I can
deep tuning if you want.
Yeah, exactly. Right, without changing freaking. Because I hate like really thick ass strings. I just. I hate
one day
it.
when you grow a set, you'll play size 12 cables like I do.
No, but I mean, it's great to sit here and play drop F on a standard guitar and have it sound decent.
Kind of impossible.
Well, no, I mean, I'm not gonna. Well, on a 7-string anyway.
Right.
I mean, the drop pedals are way better than they used to be. But
because they used to be a mess.
No, but if you have a guitar that's already drop tuned to A, like most of my, like I have 2 7-strings and one's drop tuned to A, I can get the F sharp. It's only 1, 2, 3, 4 steps down, somewhere around there. So
I mean, that's just like pure thunder at that point. You might as well just get an 8-string.
Nice purchase.
Next purchase.
You're giving them ideas.
Definitely.
I'm a 6-string guy the whole way. Like, it's too confusing to play anything more than 6 strings. I'm more of a Max Cavalera 4-string guy. Like, let's chop off the 2 high strings because I don't need them. Like, I just.
Well, yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I usually stay. I'm usually around like C, B tuning, right? Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I like I like a lot of deathcore now too. So I gotta get that drop A. Now, I'm heavy into like Die Artist Murder right now. I really like.
This is a running theme with this show, Gary. Die Artist Murder has come up like 3 or 4 times.
They've been mentioned in at least like 4 episodes.
Really? Because I don't know. Something about them that just for me.
So John Wren was just on our show over the weekend. He did the first live episode with us, and he's in a band called Selfish Lover. And the drummer of that band is the drummer of Die Artist Murder. So, like, it just keeps coming up all the time.
And it came up with Phil, I think.
And it came up with Pat. And now with you. So I'm going to have to go ahead and actually listen to Die Artist Murder at some point, because I've never honestly given them a chance.
Oh, they bang, man. They bang.
I mean, because like I'm more into like straightforward metal stuff than deathcore.
Same here.
But I'm not opposed to opening my ears to other stuff. The closest I've ever gotten to really listen to deathcore is Animals as Leaders, but I feel like that's like its own thing.
I also think you're being generous calling it deathcore, because
I don't think
the deathcore was long before, and like this is not deathcore.
So what is it? What do you call it?
I don't even know what I call it because honestly, I never really. I know I've heard them, but I'd have to go back and really
give it a real listen,
fully absorb it. But deathcore to me is the stuff that was coming out in the '90s.
I get what you're saying.
Like the death metal infused hardcore, which is where the name comes from. Like
right.
all this stuff coming out now. Not that I'm hating on all of it or shitting on it necessarily. To me, that's not what deathcore. But I'm sick of every stupid little genre that everybody's coming up with.
It's
now.
metal or is
Let's
not
just
metal?
call it metal.
Yeah, it's metal. It's hardcore. It's somewhere in between. Like, if I like it, I like it. I really don't give a shit. You know what I mean?
Hey, I like a lot of music, and if people don't like it, I don't really care that they don't like it.
Same here. Like, I don't, what do you call Whitechapel? Like, are they deathcore? Like, I don't call them deathcore. I like them, but I'm not going to call them deathcore.
See, I've never even listened to them.
I'm a fan of most of their stuff, but I wouldn't call them deathcore. I don't know what I would call them. And, there's that other name that I refuse to use for bands like Animals as Leaders and stuff like that. I refuse to use that word. That word does not exist in my vocabulary. And I just don't care.
I won't say it just out of respect.
Okay.
I don't really like a lot of those bands either, but there are a few in there that I do. And I like Animals as Leaders. I do.
I'm with you there, even though sometimes it
gets a little boring.
It gets a little close to Nintendo music.
I mean, but my man is talented.
Yeah, for sure. But I also don't like them because they put bass players out of business with their fucking 9-string, 10-string guitars, whatever they are.
No need for a bass player when you're already lower than the bass.
That's what I mean. Like, you're putting bass players out of work, putting them on the unemployment line. Like, I'm fine with the 7 strings like Demetrius was talking about. I own a 7-string. I won't go more than that. I don't need an 8-string guitar. But I also play a 5-string bass, and I've always played a 5-string bass. So
I own one. I have a 7-string guitar. It's a piece of crap. It's a Douglas. I got it for $100 off of, I don't know, wherever the hell you can get a Douglas from.
Douglas?
Off the internet.
I never even heard.
Yeah, because it cost me $100 because I just wanted to have a 7-string, like just to have one.
What was that, Demetrius? Was that an ESP?
This is a LTD.
LTD?
Yeah, it's that Stephen Carpenter.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah. This shit is annoying, but
what, the pickup?
The pickup arrangement, like, I don't know what the hell he was thinking when they came up with that, but I had to sync that pickup in because it's like it's in the middle. It's not.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah.
Weird.
It's for extra thunder. So, Gary, to answer your question, I got this Douglas guitar off of rondomusic.com.
That would explain it.
Yeah, it's $100 and it doesn't stay in tune, like at all.
That's
at
like
all.
Rondo is like the Payless of guitars.
You're right. I can't even laugh any harder than that.
It's totally true.
It's just absolute trash guitars. But I just, for the first time, I'm on their website for the first time in years, and they have some really good looking guitars. But I guarantee you, they do not stay in tune.
Oh, they don't stay in tune.
I thought it was a Solar.
I wish it was a Solar. It looks like a Solar. It does look like a Solar. It's got the same headstock as a Solar.
See, that's what they modeled it after.
It might be, and it might come out of the same factory for that matter.
Probably.
But my thing with that is, if you're gonna have this guitar, you better change the tuners, change the pickups, and change all the electronics inside of it. And at that point, like, just
get a new guitar. Exactly.
Just get a new guitar.
I mean, I won't lie. I've looked at Rondo before, and I thought about like I think I was telling you over the weekend. Like, I thought about trying out fretless bass. And like they had a real cheap fretless bass, and I thought about it and just never went back to it. But like at this point, I could probably find an Ibanez fretless for the same price if I really wanted to.
So like my two main guitars that I travel with are like $100 guitars that I've picked up from random places along the way. Shout out to Walter. He sold me one of them. And then I did go through and I changed the tuners and the pickups and the pots so that I had something that sounded the way that I wanted it to sound. But the guitar itself was still like $400 or $500 brand new. I just got it cheaper than it should have been.
Yeah, that's what I do.
But
that's the way it was for me with that Blue Ibanez also.
Right, but starting off with a $100 guitar,
Okay,
like an actual $100 guitar, and then trying to upgrade the stuff, you're still getting the trash pieces in the middle, and it's never going to feel good.
You're trying to polish a turd.
And you cannot polish turds. I have attempted to polish many turds in my life, and every time I ended up with shit in my fingernails.
Too much information.
You know what? I'll tell you. That particular 7-string I showed you, like it's baritone, right? Len?
Oh, okay.
So that, and that was like one of the first guitars I picked up when I was starting to learn. Because I have an issue with my pinky, where I almost had it severed off.
I remember that.
So I have no feeling in it, and it's annoying. But that baritone length really kind of helped me as far as like stretching, being able to stretch out. So now when I go to a 6-string, and I have to like reach over like 4 or 5 frets, I can do that now because it's the same as like 3 or 4 on the baritone. So that kind of helped me out big time.
I've never tried a baritone, but I wanted to try it out for that reason, because just the way the scale is different on it, I wanted to give it a shot.
See, my guitar game is so low right now that I'm not going to be trying anything new, and in fact, I'm just going to try and play. That's it. I'm just going to try and play, and we'll see where we end up.
Dude, I'm saying I still suck, but I'm enjoying the journey.
I do have a new project going on, but it's going to be slow going. After this, I'm going to send you a link to just take a listen to it. Gary's heard it. He thought it ripped, but, that's literally the only thing that I've played in 6 months, really, was that song. And it was basically the drummer kind of wrote most of it, and he just showed it to me, and I just did it in sections. And I was like, oh, okay, I got this. Okay, I got this. And the song was done. Like, if you asked me to play that song all the way through, I'd probably struggle for a half hour straight just to get it to feel right.
Really?
Yeah. But that's the cool part about current recording is that it can be plug and play almost. You can just figure it out by part and zap it in there and move on with your day. We tracked the whole song in less than 4 hours total. And it's not super complicated, but it's complicated enough. And I mean, literally, you could play each part one full measure, and it repeats enough times that, boom, you got a song. You just get it right for a measure, and just lay the song out each piece. So, let me ask you this as kind of a final question, Mr. Demetrius.
Yes, sir.
If you had to tell the viewers or listeners 5 records or 5 bands that they should absolutely check out, and it doesn't have to be metal or anything like that, any music from your lifetime that people should really give a listen to, anything, what would you point them to? And I'm sorry for putting you on the spot, but this is how the last question works of the night. This is how it goes.
We don't always do it as the last question, but we always will throw something in there somewhere with no prep.
All right, so yeah, I'll just have to go.
No limits.
No limits. All right, so I'll have to go and I guess the things that influence me is it's going to be, I guess, what I've listened to, and it's you're gonna raise your eyebrow on a couple of these and be like, why are you listening to that?
You might be surprised, because we've had a few come up and we were all surprisingly in agreement on it.
Listeners, the upgrade is a no judgment zone. I am not going to judge you for your personal choice.
You're going to judge me on at least one of these.
Well, there might, I mean, there might be one or two, but let's see.
Well, unless it's
maybe
Metallica Lulu.
Maybe not.
Yeah, if it's Metallica Lulu, then we got a problem.
We're definitely judging you on that, but otherwise.
So what, this is like, you're talking about just anyone in general or the younger kids today?
Anything.
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 All right, so I'm definitely going to have to start off with, I was a big time Portishead fan, so I'm going to have to say Portishead.
Okay.
Definitely Fear Factory, especially the demanufacture. That was really a kind of a Rage Against the Machine was the start, but that was like that album was a pivotal point in me like metal.
So remember when I used to play that in the college radio, and it would just be blaring into the cafeteria downstairs?
Yeah.
I mean, Gary, I tortured every single person that would sit in that cafeteria for an hour straight.
You know what's really funny? I had the same setup when I did college radio. That it piped into the cafeteria, and with the way things were at that station, it was not always organized. So I did it a lot more than 1 hour.
I mean, I probably did it more than 1 hour, but I had a guaranteed hour that anything from VOD to Fear Factory to like just some of the worst music that's ever been played and some of my favorite shit in the world, I played all of it, and everyone was subject to my taste, and they had to eat it. And eat it they did.
Right.
Okay, so we got Portishead, Fear Factory.
Anything from Red Man.
I'm on that.
Nice,
I'm on that.
Nice.
Anything Red Man, please.
3 for 3 so far.
Really? All right.
I got no problems with
no issues at all.
Yo, straight up, Portishead is baby making music. I'm sorry, but
you have to want to do that and then go slit your wrist because this is depressing. But
it is depressing, but it's also smooth.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Side note: while we were traveling in the van, there were certain records that were banned in the Descent van. Portishead and Sneaker Pimps, Tricky, like anything that could possibly make it feel like sexy time was absolutely banned.
Was out.
I can understand that, riding in a van with 5 dudes.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah, you don't want to do that.
If it come on random, turn it off.
It can make things very, very awkward.
Oh man, let's see. God, man, you really got me on the spot here. I'm gonna say, should I say this because it's cool? Should I
say what you want?
See, I would go out of my way to say stuff that's not cool.
I would go out of my way to say stuff that is really important to me personally.
Yeah.
Because if you asked me to run my top 5,
then I would say, like growing up, I did have a lot of problems, but I was listening to Korn a lot. They, a lot of the lyrics really kind of spoke to me, especially that first album.
Right.
So that was kind of that's kind of a pivotal thing for me. And I'm gonna be crazy and different and say 10,000 Maniacs.
You know what? I love 10,000 Maniacs.
Boom.
Absolutely love. Her voice is amazing.
Yeah.
And
I'm not a fan, but I'm not a hater.
Hey, that's fine. Yeah. I mean, there's going to be 1,000 things that I love that people are just going to look at me and go, I don't get it, and I'm fine with it because I get it.
Right.
Oh, I got plenty of those too. Didn't I mention Stryper on the John Wren episode?
You did mention Stryper, and I kind of looked at you and I was like, I'm not going to judge you for that. I don't fuck with them, but there's whatever. It's your choice.
I don't care.
As long as you're not putting it on in the car while I'm driving, I'm good. If I'm riding, I'm subject to whatever it is that you want to listen to if I'm riding. But if I'm driving, no.
Bonus band.
Okay.
And this is from Japan. There's a group called you might have heard of them. I think they're called Dragon Ash.
Dragon Ash?
Yeah.
Never heard of them, but I'm gonna have
Never heard of them either.
After
Check
this.
them out. I don't know if they're still active, but
it's the internet. Everybody's still active. You can get any music you want.
Pretty good.
Like, there was a time when we were young where if bands didn't have stuff in stores, you just couldn't hear it.
Yeah.
All the bands are active now. If you have any sort of internet presence, I can check you out. So, Dragon Ash, I'll find it.
All right.
And I'll report back to you. I'll let you know how I think about it.
And he's like, oh God, Dragon Ash, they suck. What the hell are you thinking?
If I think it sucks, I'm going to tell you it sucks. But
yeah, I know.
Don't take it personally.
That's all good. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. I can support that, though. There's a good 5 plus an extra one that nobody's even probably heard of here, but maybe they're going to go listen to them. I'm going to go listen to them.
Check them out.
No issues whatsoever.
I'm glad I did not disappoint.
Totally cool with those picks.
I mean, honestly, the only reason I ever listened to Portishead was because of you. I would have never listened to them otherwise. Like, it would have never been in my personal audio view. Like, I would have never thought to put that on. But all you did was listen to it / talk about it. So then I listened to it, and I was like, you know what? This ain't bad. I like this. And then,
Yeah, I don't know. It's just something about it, man.
Yeah, I know.
It's like it's really what's the word I'm looking for? Like kind of like haunting in a way, but yeah.
Sure.
Well, I guess Len, we're slightly out of sync time-wise with our record store days because Portishead was insanely huge when I was working at the record store, and that's how I heard it because we played it constantly in the record store.
No, it was.
Well, I think that whole time.
Huge. It was huge when I was there. But we didn't play it in the store because nobody in my store was into it. So I didn't listen to it until Demetrius was like, "Yo, bro, I'm listening to Portishead," and I'm just like, "What? Like, what are you doing? What are you doing?" And then you played it for me one day, and I was like, "It's all right." And then I copied it. Yo, you're the reason why I have a copy. I have any copies of Candiria in general, is because you were dating somebody that we're both friends with, and we all went to some show, and then you're like, I was like, yo, let me borrow that CD. I need to copy it because I was still living on tapes. Like, I had CDs, but tapes were still a real thing. Right. Like, just copying shit because making CD copies was going to cost you almost as much as just buying the damn CD.
Right.
And it would take an hour for the fucking thing to burn.
Dude, I remember going to your house, man, and you would have stacks upon stacks upon stacks of CDs. And I was like,
I still have them.
Dude.
I still have all of them. I haven't sold even one of them since then.
That's crazy,
not even one.
That's crazy.
I have a bin of CDs in my bedroom right now.
Man.
And they've been sitting in the exact same spot for like 7 or 8 years straight.
That's crazy.
Just because like nobody uses CDs anymore.
Right.
I don't.
I still do, actually.
You do?
I still once in a while, but I had it the same way. I had them just sitting in boxes in storage for the longest time, and then when I moved here, I got racks, so now in my hallway out there, I have my whole CD collection. All 2000 something.
I still have vinyl, so
I'm not a vinyl guy.
I used to DJ those.
That's true.
Yeah.
So like my CD collection is actually at my mom's house, for the most part.
Man, you left her with all that.
Yeah. So when I moved out, I moved into an ex-girlfriend's house, and I just didn't want to drag all that shit with me because I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna stay here. Like, this could or could not last. It's not like I knew it was my final stop. And then when I moved out of that, I moved into an apartment for about a month while I was closing on my house. And then when I moved to my house, I was like more situated with like building this like makeshift studio down here and getting things set in my house, not getting all the crap out of my mom's house. So if you go back to her house, my couch is there. My fucking
That's a damn shame.
I got a desk there. I got clothes in the closet, bro. Like I still live there basically. And every time I come over, she's like, "Are you gonna come get your stuff out of my house anytime soon?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not, because I'm gonna get it out of there when you move. Like when you're done, I'll move my stuff. But for now, it's not bothering you. You don't go down there. It's like a time capsule.
Wow.
It's like time stopped.
Wow.
Yeah, I should really actually go over there and
Yeah, you
get
should.
those CDs. Like really, what I should do is go over there. Because I've ripped that's the other thing. I've ripped every single one of those CDs.
Yeah, I remember you when you were starting to do that.
Oh yeah, I was talking to you about it or whatever. So This hard drive is one of 6 copies of my backup of MP3s, because hard drives die. So
Yes,
if they go down, I've got my MP3s backed up on a number of sources, and I continue to add to this. So when I buy stuff off of Bandcamp, or I buy a record off of somebody and it comes with a free download, I download it and I put it in my backup, and then I do a backup protection and back that up in multiple places, just so that I'm not like digging around waiting or looking for things. And it came in handy recently, because me and Gary were talking about some records he had never had access to just because he didn't buy them, or they just never popped up. I threw them on my Google Drive and he downloaded them, and they're my MP3s that I've legitimately had for over 15 years.
And I did the same thing for you with a bunch of stuff too.
Right.
Because I'm the same way. I don't
own it.
And you know what's funny? I was thinking about it because we were talking about the fact that, there's supposed to be storms tonight. And you know what? If you're all about streaming and your internet goes out,
you ain't got no music, son.
You ain't got no music. Your shit's done.
Right. You better have a backup. Something.
Yeah. And I didn't think about that. Like I always said, I'd rather have the files, but I didn't think about that until we were talking about the storm thing, and if the internet goes out or whatever.
Internet
so
out,
there you go.
But the electric is still on. I can listen to whatever I want.
Yep.
I got fucking 500 DVDs on a rack up there. As long as the electric's on, I can watch movies. I can listen to music. I can do whatever I want to do.
Yep.
If the electric's out, then I'm screwed. But that's beside the point. Like everything's not working at that point.
Well, when they knock all the satellites out of the air, we'll be the ones still chilling. We'll have stuff to watch. We'll have stuff to listen to, and all these other scrubs will be out of luck.
Yep.
Thank you for being here, Demetrius. This was a good time, good talk.
Yes.
Thanks for having me.
Number of subjects.
Great time.
And the next time, if you come back on, I want to dig into your movie obsession. Because I know you have a huge movie obsession.
Yes, I do.
And as well, I know you have some toys and some other things floating around that Gary would jump all over. So if you come back one day, let's have another conversation about completely different topics.
Yeah, let's do that.
All right, good to go. The upgradepodcast.net is the place to go for all the links and everything else. You'll find our Facebook and Instagram on there. Communicate with us from there. And that's it. We'll see you guys soon. Thanks again, Demetrius, for being on.
Thank you.
And I am Gary Muttley, and he is
Len Carmichael. Thanks for being here.
See you soon.
See ya.
Peace.